Chapter 132. Qin Wentian returned to his residence and began his cultivation. At this moment, his condition wasn't too good. In his dream, Qin Wentian was situated under a starry sky. Above him, numerous runic diagrams frenziedly revolved and interweaved, forming a sky full of astral fist shadows that smashed down from the heavens. However, they didn't contain any power, because this place was Qin Wentian's dream. But inside the Astral River Hall, on the 6th level, the Astral River Hall's astral fist shadows continuously ravaged his will, causing him to experience endless agony. If it wasn't for the fact that his will was extremely strong, he wouldn't have been able to endure for so long. At this moment, Qin Wentian was using his dream to simulate the scene back then. His heart was still surging with emotions. From the 1st level to the 5th level of the Astral River Hall, he could feel that the resplendent runic diagrams had transformed into a black hole, transforming into terrifying fist shadows that pressed downwards. But when he stepped onto the 6th level, he already felt that it wasn't fist shadows, but rather, astral fist shadows that smashed downwards, destroying the heavens and earth. Every single fist shadow was like a constellation. The magnificent scene of millions of constellations smashing downwards caused people to be deeply shocked. Especially at the instant when the attacks landed on his sea of consciousness, the millions of constellations converged together. It was no longer a single constellation. He could only see the flowing light of the constellations as his entire body trembled from the impact. Too magnificent. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the night sky in his dream, completely immersed in it. After a long period of time, the astral energy in Qin Wentian's body seemed to be seething. After which, an astral heavenly hammer appeared in his hands as he abruptly smashed it downwards, manifesting a set of divine imprints. This divine imprint was akin to the night sky, stacked on top of each other. The stacked layers of the night sky seemed to be slowly circulating downwards. If I inscribe this divine imprint into a divine weapon, there would definitely be a huge boost. Maybe, I might even be able to inscribe a 3rd level mid-grade or even a 3rd level high-grade divine weapon. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath, feeling extremely agitated in his heart. After which, he took out a brush and paper and started inscribing under the starry skies. After a long time, he carved many times and finally carved the 2nd painting in his life. It was still a blurry silhouette wielding an ancient halberd. This strike was as heavy as a mountain, and at the instant the ancient halberd pierced out, a terrifying vortex appeared. At the tip of the halberd, there seemed to be numerous stars transforming into beautiful arcs that shot towards the vortex, giving off an illusion that it could devour everything. This shall be the 2nd stance of the Great Dream Halberd Arts, the Fallen Star Stance. Qin Wentian mumbled to himself, naming this stance. Currently, the Great Dream Halberd Art that he created already had 2 stances. The 1st stance was Mountain Splitter, and the 2nd stance was Falling Star. The 2nd move would require him to condense star-like essence energy, but to him who could condense divine essence, this would not be too big of a problem. Standing up, Qin Wentian started to practice the 2nd stance of Fallen Star in his dreams. Being able to visualize and inscribe it was one thing, but if he wanted to use it in battle, the requirements would be much higher. It wouldn't be so easy. Yun Xing had naturally comprehended the Astral River Hall's starfall. It was just that it was impossible for him to condense 5 or 6 layers of the Astral River Hall's Astral River Hall into a whirlpool of starfall. He could only condense 3 layers of the Astral River Hall's 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 Astral River Hall. However, it was impossible for him to condense 5 or 6 layers of the Astral River Hall's Astral River Hall's Astral River Hall's Astral River Hall. Qin Wentian frenziedly cultivated, yet he still felt that there wasn't enough time. After all, no matter how fast Little Rascal's speed was, it would still take a long time to reach the Chu Emperor district. This was also the reason why there weren't many people in the Emperor Star Academy. Because the distance was too far, if one didn't have a demonic beast as a mount, they would have to waste a lot of time. In the end, Qin Wentian still wasn't able to perfect the fallen star stance. He hurriedly used Yuan meteor stones to replenish the astral energy in his body, causing him to sigh. Time passed too quickly. When the astral energy in his body was once again filled to the brim, Qin Wentian's will drifted into his sea of consciousness. Once again, he saw the tiny astral being. This was the stone that his old fogey father had left behind for him. Once, he had seen many inconceivable things within it, and had even obtained the spirit refinement method, a heaven-defying cultivation art. Although it wasn't an innate attack technique, the value of the spirit refinement method was something that Qin Wentian didn't dare to estimate. If news of it leaked out, the entire Chu country would definitely be in an uproar. The final battle is about to begin, I hope I'll be lucky. Qin Wentian murmured in his heart. Feeling Sikong Mingyue's killing intent as well as his overwhelming strength, Qin Wentian felt an immense pressure bearing down on him. With his current strength, it seemed that he still wasn't strong enough to obtain the first position of the Jun Lin banquet. Especially since he had yet to completely master the fallen star stance. Hence, he hoped to try his luck with the tiny astral being. As his will drifted into the astral being, Qin Wentian once again felt as though he was situated within a boundless astral river, within which there were many astral fragments. Qin Wentian soared through the air, the astral energy on the Yuan meteor stones in his hands transformed into terrifying streams of light, frenziedly flowing into the tiny astral being. After which, Qin Wentian's will locked onto a few astral fragments. He didn't mind expending a large amount of Yuan meteor stones, he wanted to see if he could find a way to increase his combat prowess. One by one, the memories from the astral fragments flowed into Qin Wentian's mind. Only after Qin Wentian consecutively lit up 10 of the astral fragments did he withdraw his will. Opening his eyes, he stared at the Yuan meteor stones on the ground, which were no longer flowing with astral energy. He could only feel his heart twitching slightly. If it wasn't for the fact that the Divine Weapon Pavilion had given him a large amount of Yuan meteor stones to support his cultivation, there was no way he would have been able to pay such a huge price. Yet, he had only managed to light up 10 of the astral fragments. Qin Wentian didn't have the time to feel heartache over the expenditure of Yuan meteor stones. He closed his eyes and started to digest the memories, hoping to find something useful. In the first memory fragment, his heart involuntarily trembled when he saw the scene within. He saw many experts engaged in a frenzied battle. These experts were all terrifying existences, and the current him had no way of coming into contact with them. And the reason why Qin Wentian's heart was trembling was because he saw a certain person. Uncle Black. In the scene, Uncle Black's hands and feet were completely intact. His black hair draped over his shoulders, and he exuded a demonic aura. Qin Wentian almost failed to recognize him. And beside Uncle Black, stood a middle-aged man. This middle-aged man was someone Qin Wentian had met before. He was a peak-level expert from the Qin Heavenly Divine sect. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, exuding an air of arrogance. Uncle Black stood beside him, as though he was his subordinate. This scene was extremely brief. When Qin Wentian exited the memory fragment, his eyes were bloodshot, and his fists were tightly clenched, as though he was in extreme pain. Looking at the demonic aura of Uncle Black, it was hard for him to imagine that this was the crippled old man in his memories. Who was it that crippled Uncle Black? What sort of battles had he experienced? And who was that middle-aged man? Why was he present every time? Drawing in a deep breath, Qin Wentian continued digesting the memories. Next, he saw many more scenes, and he discovered a pattern. That middle-aged man was present in every scene. This caused a bold thought to appear in Qin Wentian's mind. Could it be that the astral fragments in the tiny astral being were merely fragments of the middle-aged man's memories? In that case, didn't that mean that his memories were completely shattered, transforming into millions and millions of fragments? And the identity of the middle-aged man, could it be that he was his old fogey father? As he thought of this, great waves rose in Qin Wentian's heart. According to Uncle Black, that mysterious stone was the only thing his old fogey father had left behind for him. After that, that stone transformed into the tiny astral being. If it was really like what he guessed, that the tiny astral being contained the memories of the middle-aged man, in that case, there was a high possibility that the middle-aged man was his biological father. From this, one could understand why Uncle Black would always silently protect him. Because, Uncle Black was either a friend or a subordinate of his old fogey father, and there was a high possibility that they had a relationship where they were willing to die for each other. If not, Uncle Black wouldn't have taken care of Qin Wentian even after he was crippled, watching him grow up. At this moment, Qin Wentian seemed to have forgotten his original purpose of coming here, as he was immersed in his own imagination of his past. Only one last memory image remained. In this last memory image, there was a young man. The young man was surrounded by towering palaces, yet the stubbornness on his face seemed to be somewhat incompatible with the majestic atmosphere of the surroundings. He was sitting cross-legged, with a stubborn look in his eyes. After which, starlight revolved around his finger as he abruptly pierced it into his own body. At the same time, he chanted a spell, and there seemed to be a voice drifting into Qin Wentian's mind. Instantly, the young man's entire body turned crimson red. Within his body, there seemed to be bloodline shackles appearing and disappearing. As his finger pierced into his body, the spell circulated, and the layers of shackles began to shatter unceasingly. The young man's figure was drowned in a blood-red glow as he screamed in agony. Qin Wentian's heart trembled once more. After emerging from the memory image, his heart was heaving up and down violently. So this 12 linked chains needle technique was born because of this. Not only that, this set of needle technique should have been specially created for him. In Zhang Xian's memory, the young man's technique was almost identical to this set of needles. However, when paired with the young man's incantation, the bloodline shackles were completely destroyed. On the other hand, the 12 consecutive life-severing needles could only temporarily undo the bloodline seal. Uncle Black must have been afraid that I wouldn't be able to endure it, hence he created a cushioning needle technique to prevent me from exploding after I undid the bloodline shackles. Qin Wentian sighed in his heart. The bloodline of the young man was exactly the same as his own. It seems like his guess was right. That young man was indeed a middle-aged man. There should be no mistake. Old fogey father left behind his life's memories for me. In that case, old fogey father is truly dead. Qin Wentian sighed as he stared at the starry skies. The stars were so resplendent that they were dazzling to the extreme. What his old fogey father dared to do when he was young, why couldn't he do it? He, Qin Wentian, wasn't abandoned. Not only that, there was a high possibility that his old fogey father was an extraordinary character. In that case, all the more he mustn't disappoint his old fogey father. Thinking of this, he closed his eyes. Astral light shone on his finger as he abruptly pressed it against his own body. The 12 linked chains needle technique was executed using his finger technique. To him, it wasn't difficult at all. At the same time, the blood in his body began to circulate in accordance with the spell. His blood began to roar. Chapter 133. The sky gradually brightened. Today, the final round of the June Lin banquet would begin. Today, the top 9 rankers of the June Lin banquet would be divided into 3 groups, and the final round would be held. Today, the number of spectators in the Chu Emperor District had also created history. The number of spectators in the past 2 days was even higher. All the inns and buildings in the vicinity were occupied by people. They either stood in front of the windows, or stood at the highest points of the buildings, gazing at the Chu Emperor District from afar. Everyone was filled with anticipation. How spectacular would the final round of the June Lin banquet be? The banquet had already been prepared, and the representatives of the major powers had all arrived. Chu Tianjiao, Xiao Lu, and the rest also arrived. Staring at the boundless crowd, a smile appeared on Chu Tianjiao's face. The June Lin banquet hadn't been this grand in recent years. It seemed that the popularity of this year's Junlin banquet was extremely high. In the direction of the Star River Association, the vice leader of the Star River Association, Zhue Yin, personally arrived. Beside him sat Murin and a few other important figures of the Star River Association. Murin, it seems that you didn't complete the task I asked you to do back then. Zhue Yin spoke to Murin, causing Murin's countenance to stiffen. What Zhue Yin was referring to was naturally the matter regarding the painting Qin Wentian had inscribed. Back then, Zhue Yin told him to bring the person who inscribed the painting to the Star River Association after obtaining it. President Zhue, I've tried my best, but there might have been some mistakes, Murin replied in a low voice. Oh. Zhue Yin faintly continued, I heard that the painting was inscribed by Qin Wentian, and last year in Sky Harmony City, you had the chance to recruit Qin Wentian into the Star River Association, but you offended him for no reason at all, allowing the Divine Weapon Pavilion to take advantage of you instead. Is this true? Yes, back then I tried to persuade him, but he was too proud and arrogant, and refused to join my Star River Association. Hence, I decided to hand him over to the Yi clan to be dealt with. As for what happened after that, I didn't expect it either. Murin's countenance was extremely unsightly. He didn't expect Zhue Yin to investigate this matter. If not, how could he know so much about it? Humph, Zhue Yin was a little displeased and snorted coldly. This Qin Wentian was very famous nowadays. How could he not know about this matter? Back then, if Murin had recommended Qin Wentian to the Star River Association, given Qin Wentian's talent, he would definitely be nurtured into a vice president. I wonder what rank he would be able to obtain in this year's Junlin banquet. Zhue Yin silently mused. Not only him, at this moment, everyone was guessing what the final rankings of the Junlin banquet would be. In the direction of the Mo clan, Mo Qingcheng's father was sitting there as he asked Mo Qingcheng, Qingcheng, what ranking do you think that brat will obtain? I don't know. Maybe I can obtain one of the top 3 rankings. Mo Qingcheng smiled. Oh, you trust him so much? Father Mo stared at Mo Qingcheng as he asked. It was extremely difficult to become one of the top 3 rankers. He naturally knew of Luo Qianqiu's background, as well as Xikong Mingyue. Xikong Mingyue was also someone the 9 mystical palace held in high regard. Even if Qin Wentian wanted to defeat them, it would be impossible. As for the other top 3 rankings, Orkan, Second Sword, Chu Chen, and Ho Tai were all present. It wouldn't be a simple matter to obtain that spot. No matter what rank he obtained, he should be proud of himself in this year's Junlin banquet. It's extremely rare to see someone with the ability to jump levels and challenge opponents. After all, his cultivation base is only at the 7th level of arterial circulation. It's just that the amount of energy contained within his astral energy seems to be far more terrifying compared to others. Most probably, this is due to the difference in the height of his astral souls and constellations. Father Mo murmured in a low voice. Other than this, Qin Wentian's strongest points were his proficiency in innate techniques, as well as his strange attacking methods. Spitting out sword light from his mouth, stomping on palm imprints, what level of arterial circulation and control of astral energy were required to achieve such a feat? Father Mo was extremely curious about this young man. Beside the azure jadeite dragon seat, Luo Qianqiu stood there. Beside him was a middle-aged man. Ever since the first day of the Junlin banquet, the middle-aged man had always been standing there. However, he rarely spoke. But at this moment, his gaze shifted onto Luo Qianqiu as he stated, Qianqiu, today, will have to depend on you. The number 1 position in the Junlin banquet will definitely be mine. Luo Qianqiu nodded his head. This was his mission. This time around, the number 1 position in the Junlin banquet would definitely be his. Uncle, please don't make Xikong Mingyue give way for me. I need him to go all out in this battle. Luo Qianqiu spoke in a low voice. If others were to hear this, they would definitely be extremely astonished. To think that even the Junlin banquet could be manipulated in the dark. In this world, as long as one had tyrannical strength, there was nothing that couldn't be controlled. The Junlin banquet was the same as well. Right. The middle-aged man nodded his head, but in his heart, he was silently musing that Luo Qianqiu was still too young. It was inevitable for the young to be frivolous. However, having lived for so many years, he understood this logic. Sometimes, in order to achieve one's goals, some methods were unavoidable. He came here with a mission. Luo Qianqiu had to step into the 7th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion. In other words, the number 1 position in the Junlin banquet this time around could only belong to Luo Qianqiu. At this moment, Luo Qianqiu slowly walked out, and an instant later, he stood on the first towering platform. Xikong Mingyue similarly walked out. However, the platform he walked onto was the second towering platform, because he was in the second group. The top 9 rankers of the Junlin banquet all walked up the platforms. Very swiftly, 8 silhouettes appeared on the first 3 platforms. However, there was still one person who had yet to arrive. 2 people appeared on the second platform. Xikong Mingyue and Chu Chen stood there, but Qin Wentian's silhouette was nowhere to be seen. Today was the day of the Junlin banquet. No matter how late he was, he shouldn't have come at this time. Could it be that Qin Wentian didn't dare to come? Chu Tianjiao didn't announce the start of the Junlin banquet. Instead, he waited for a period of time. However, as time passed, there was still no sign of Qin Wentian. This caused many to start whispering to each other. Could it be that Qin Wentian didn't show up because he was afraid of fighting against Xikong Mingyue? Even if he was afraid, he could just directly concede. Why did he have to be absent? Could it be that he didn't want to bear the stigma of admitting defeat? Why hasn't that fellow appeared yet? Mustang was somewhat anxious as he glanced at Ren Qianqing behind him. No matter what he does, there's no need to interfere. Since he did it, he naturally has his reasons. Ren Qianqing calmly replied, causing Mustang to be taken aback. Old Ren was truly open-minded. No matter what Qin Wentian did, he would always support him. Even if Qin Wentian was absent, there must be a reason. Let the first towering platform begin. Chu Tianjiao finally spoke, no longer wanting to wait. On the first towering platform, there were Luo Qianqiu, Second Sword, and Luo Huan. The first battle, Luo Qianqiu versus Second Sword. The old man beside Chu Tianjiao announced. Luo Huan walked to the side of the platform, leaving Luo Qianqiu and Second Sword standing there. A terrifying aura circulated around the two of them. Luo Qianqiu's entire body was filled with the power of lightning. Around Second Sword, sword chi churned wildly, as though it wanted to break apart the heavens. You are not my opponent. Luo Qianqiu inclined his head and stared at the skies. The final battle of the Junlin banquet had finally arrived. He had waited for this moment for a very long time. I'll only know after I try. Second Sword stepped out, as sword chi gushed forth. The current him was in an extremely dangerous situation. As Second Sword continued advancing, his sword chi grew stronger and stronger, transforming into a corporeal beam of sword light that shot towards Luo Qianqiu. At the same time, Luo Qianqiu's aura skyrocketed, as though he was howling. The aura he emitted broke through from the 8th level of arterial circulation to the 9th level. Before this, he had been fighting with a cultivation base at the 8th level of arterial circulation. Now, there was no longer any need to conceal his strength. The sword chi radiating from Second Sword froze for a moment before he finally slashed out with his sword. This was a gigantic sword that descended from the heavens, as though it wanted to split the heavens into 2 halves. However, Luo Qianqiu lifted his hands, as the shadow of the thunder god appeared behind him. In the air, a gigantic palm made of lightning appeared, directly blocking the sword light. The terrifying destructive might of the palm shattered the sword light. Boom! Stepping out, Luo Qianqiu's silhouette vanished. That palm of lightning blasted forth with a terrifying destructive might, destroying everything in its path. Second sword slashed out in a frenzy. In that instant, tens of thousands of beams of sword light appeared. However, the palm of lightning transformed into a terrifying lightning serpent, coiling around the beams of sword light. After which, a terrifying surge of lightning energy was transmitted into Second Sword's body, causing him to tremble violently. Scram! Luo Qianqiu blasted out with his palm. That palm of lightning slammed into Second Sword, causing Second Sword's body to be flung through the air. When he finally stabilized himself, he bowed to Luo Qianqiu as he stated, "I've lost, Second Sword." He was utterly convinced of his defeat. Luo Qianqiu's strength is so strong. The hearts of the spectators trembled. So this was Luo Qianqiu's true strength? Too terrifying. Before this, he was at the 8th level of arterial circulation and had yet to meet a worthy opponent. But now, he had completely unleashed his brilliance. The spectators finally understood why the Drunken Wonder Pavilion had deemed Luo Qianqiu as the most popular candidate, and why they believed that he was destined to be the champion of the Junlin banquet. Second battle, Second Sword against Luo Huan. The old man continued. Luo Qianqiu walked to the side, leaving space for Luo Huan and Second Sword. Right from the start, Second Sword unleashed his strongest attack. The frenzied sword light didn't give Luo Huan any time to breathe. Even though her body was flexible, and even though her close combat abilities were terrifying, she couldn't even get close to Second Sword. In the end, Luo Huan was defeated. Not only that, she was defeated without any suspense. In that case, there was no need for the remaining battle between Luo Qianqiu and Luo Huan. For the first towering platform, Luo Qianqiu was ranked first. He would be fighting against the top rankers of the other two groups. Second Sword was ranked second, while the powerful Luo Huan could only be ranked third. The gazes of the spectators shifted to the second towering platform, yet they still couldn't see the silhouette of Qin Wentian. Only Xikong Mingyue and Chu Chen were present. Qin Wentian, where was he? Did he really have to give up on the Junlin banquet? Chapter 134. The old man beside Chu Tianjiao glanced at the second towering platform as he spoke, "The third towering platform, let's fight first." The Junlin banquet was the grandest event in Chu, it would be too much of a pity to miss it. Hence, the old man was willing to leave some time for Qin Wentian, hoping that he would arrive in time. The first battle, Orkan vs. Ho Tai. The old man announced. After which, Orkan and Ho Tai stood facing each other. Orkan wielded a long spear in his hands as his astral souls flickered. His entire person was akin to a long spear, and at this moment, he gave off a feeling of sharpness. Raising his long spear, he pointed it towards Ho Tai. Instantly, a terrifying spear light gushed forth, and as he stepped out, the sharpness of his aura surged madly. Not to be outdone, Ho Tai released both of his astral souls. His first astral soul was the Heavenly Bull astral soul, while his second astral soul was the White Tiger astral soul. Both were terrifying beast-type astral souls. This had to do with the environment he grew up in. The godly General Martial Palace was situated within the dark forest, and didn't interact with the other martial academies. Their daily training was to survive in the wilderness, hunting demonic beasts to survive. Every single one of them had experienced the cruelest of trials, fighting against the various types of demonic beasts in the dark forest. Under the influence of such an environment, many in the godly General Martial Palace preferred to form beast-type astral souls. They believed that only beast-type astral souls would be able to grant them immense strength. Ho Tai's entire person emitted an incomparably violent aura. Every step he took caused the ground to tremble. His eyes were a demonic red, causing people to feel a sense of fear just by looking at them. However, Orkan didn't show any signs of weakness in the face of such a fearsome aura. That terrifying sharpness of his aura continued to blossom forth, growing stronger and stronger with each step he took. A terrifying vortex appeared in front of him. Abruptly, Orkan's body moved. Wherever his long spear passed, streaks of light would appear, as though wanting to break apart the void. Boom! Ho Tai directly punched out with his fist, colliding against Orkan's long spear. This scene caused the pupils of many in the crowd to involuntarily narrow. Wasn't this a little too ferocious? Of course, Ho Tai's fist was also a sacred art. That supreme power shook the spear, causing it to buzz and tremble. Orkan's spear trembled, and suddenly, several cold lights shot out from the spear, piercing towards Ho Tai's eyes. Ho Tai let out a furious roar and charged forward like a ferocious beast. His palm slapped forward like the palm of a beast, incomparably violent. Orkan's eyes were as calm as ever. Ho Tai's strength didn't cause his heart to waver in the slightest. His expression was as calm as ever, giving off a cold feeling. On the battle platform of the Junlin banquet, you had to be prepared that every battle would be a tough one. In the next moment, Orkan's left palm blasted out, causing tens of thousands of spear lights to explode out at the same time, piercing towards Ho Tai. Ho Tai howled in rage as their attacks collided. It was actually an attack against an attack. An instant later, the silhouettes of the two combatants were engulfed by a terrifying air current. Only an incomparably terrifying aura remained. The sharp sound of spear whistled through the air, like the roars of a demonic beast. The spectators were dazzled. No one had expected that Ho Tai would actually be so strong, able to fight against Orkan to such an extent. "It's time to end this," Orkan calmly stated. After which, the spectators only saw a dazzling spear light blossoming like a demonic lotus, breaking apart Ho Tai's attack and defense, piercing into his arm, causing Ho Tai to retreat explosively, having no choice but to concede. Even if he couldn't contend for the top 3 positions, he had to at least contend for the top 4 and 6 positions. It wasn't worth it if he were to fight against Orkan until he was heavily injured. After resting for a moment, the second battle was between Ho Tai and Gu Xing. The degree of excitement of this battle wasn't inferior to the first battle. Both Ho Tai and Gu Xing were extremely crazy characters, and they were like two madmen, engaging in a frenzied battle. There were even scenes of the two of them clashing against each other, causing the spectators to be speechless. Did they not care about their lives? Ho Tai was also speechless. He didn't expect that Gu Xing, who was on the same platform as him, was also a madman. Initially, he had thought that it would be easier for the group without Luo Qianqiu and Xikong Mingyue. But now, if he were to lose this battle, he would only be able to contend for the top 7 and 9 positions. He couldn't afford to lose such a reputation. The two of them fought with their lives on the line, and finally, Ho Tai defeated Gu Xing. However, he himself was so exhausted that he almost collapsed. He directly sat down and began to use Yuan meteor stones to replenish his depleted astral energy. If he were to fight another battle like this again, he wouldn't even be able to participate in the Junlin banquet. Luckily, Gu Xing seemed to have relaxed a little at the end, and didn't have the intention to fight with his life on the line. Gu Xing seemed to be able to continue fighting, but he chose to give up. It seems like his purpose for participating in the Junlin banquet wasn't to obtain a good ranking. The spectators all had the same thought after watching this battle. But no matter what, a loss was a loss. The rankings of the third group were out. Orkan was ranked number 1, Ho Tai was ranked number 2, and Gu Xing was ranked number 3. Chapter 135. Qin Wentian walked to the bottom of the platform, as he inclined his head and stared at Qiu Mo, the corners of his mouth curling up in a mocking smile. When he arrived, he heard Yu Xian's words. Although he wasn't acquainted with Yu Xian, and didn't have a good impression of her just because of a few words, Qiu Mo's reaction made him feel extremely unhappy. Yu Xian said that he had stepped into the 6th level of the Astral River Hall. Regardless of whether it was true or false, this had nothing to do with Qiu Mo. Why would he berate others, and in such an intense manner? Obviously, it was because Qiu Mo was extremely unhappy with Qin Wentian. Qiu Mo narrowed his eyes when he saw Qin Wentian. After which, he coldly laughed. Could it be that you've really stepped into the 6th level of the Astral River Hall? No matter what, I'm still your senior brother. It's not good to speak to your senior brother in such a manner. If you want others to respect you, you must first respect yourself. How can you berate your own junior sister like that? Qin Wendian countered. Hee, you've only entered the top 9 rankings of the Junlin banquet. Why do you act as though you're already the top ranker? Chiu Mo mocked, causing strange expressions to appear on the faces of the spectators. These two geniuses of the Emperor Star Academy were actually fighting against each other? How interesting. Qin Wendian shifted his gaze, no longer looking at Chiu Mo. With a leap, he stepped onto the platform. However, Fatty Fanlu was extremely unhappy. He shouted from below, last year, when a certain someone had a cultivation base at the 9th level of arterial circulation, he was only ranked number 5 in the Junlin banquet. When he was at the 7th level of arterial circulation, who knows which corner he was cultivating in. Yet he still has the cheek to mock others. It's as though he was the one who obtained the first place in the Junlin banquet. This sentence caused Chiu Mo's countenance to stiffen, as he stared at Fan Lu with a cold glint in his eyes. There are so many elders in the Emperor Star Academy, yet a certain someone jumped out to spout such arrogant words. Those who didn't know better would think that he was the most senior in the academy. Fan Lu continued, his words causing Chiu Mo's countenance to turn incomparably ugly to behold. Glancing at the gazes of the surrounding elders, Chiu Mo's countenance stiffened as he sat down, trembling uncontrollably. In his heart, he wanted nothing more than to kill Fatty Fan Lu with a single palm strike. After Qin Wendian walked up the platform, countless gazes landed on him. As for what Yu Xian had said earlier, they had already forgotten about it. After all, they didn't really believe it in their hearts. What they wanted to see was the final battle of the Junlin banquet. It shouldn't be too late. Qin Wendian inclined his head, staring at the rising sun in the sky. The smile on the face of the youth was as radiant as the sun. As to why he was late, it was because he had experienced a terrifying nightmare last night. The awakening of his bloodline had almost devoured him whole. Luckily, he had managed to endure it, and after he recovered his composure, he immediately rushed over here. How could he miss out on the arena of the Junlin banquet? Uncle Black, during today's Junlin banquet, will you be silently observing me? Qin Wendian stared at the skies as he murmured in his heart. That damned old fogey of a father would also be observing his performance. There was also the anticipation of the teachers of the Emperor's Star Academy, Mo Qingcheng, Muro, Luo Huan, Fatty, and the Divine Weapon Pavilion. How could he, Qin Wendian, fail? Senior, my apologies for being late. Luckily, I made it in time for the Junlin banquet. I hope Senior won't blame me. Qin Wendian spoke to the old man seated beside the throne. You've already missed the group battles. Not only that, the rankings for each group have already been released. What do you think we should do? That old man stared at Qin Wendian with unhappiness in his eyes. After all, Qin Wendian had already missed the time for the group battles. Initially, he had wanted to wait for Qin Wendian, but he didn't manage to do so. The final battle shouldn't have started yet, right? Qin Wendian cast a glance at the 3 towering platforms. He discovered that there were only Luo Huan and Gu Xing on the 3rd towering platform. The rankings for each group have already been determined. Next, we shall fight for the final rankings. The old man spoke. Since that's the case, can Senior just treat it as me admitting defeat for the first 2 battles? Qin Wendian spoke. Since he was late, he should be punished. Hence, he would consider the 2 battles as his loss. The old man contemplated for a moment before nodding his head. Since you've already admitted defeat for the first 2 battles, there's nothing more I can say. Now, I shall announce that you are ranked number 3 in that group. Now, please head to the 3rd towering platform to fight for the 7th and 9th rankings. Many thanks, Senior. Qin Wendian bowed. After which, his silhouette flickered as he appeared on the 3rd towering platform. There were already 2 silhouettes here. There were Luo Huan and Gu Xing. Smelly brat, you actually dared to be late on such an important day? Luo Huan glared at Qin Wentian. Didn't I rush over immediately? Qin Wentian laughed. Are you confident? Luo Huan asked. Not too bad. Qin Wentian lightly nodded his head. It's just that I didn't sleep well last night. Time was too tight. Sadly, the Junlin banquet can no longer be postponed. Okay, the first battle, Luo Huan versus Qin Wentian. The old man beside the throne spoke. Luo Huan smiled as she glanced at Qin Wentian. After which, she turned to the old man and stated, Senior, I forfeit this battle. Luo Huan forfeited the ranking battles of the Junlin banquet, allowing Qin Wentian to pursue the rankings that belonged to him. As long as Qin Wentian obtained the 7th ranking, he would be given a chance to continue challenging the higher rankings. Fine. The second battle, Gu Xing versus Qin Wentian. The old man spoke again. I forfeit. Gu Xing spat out, his words causing countless people to be stunned. Was there a need to be so dramatic? Now that Qin Wentian had returned, the two of them forfeited at the same time, allowing Qin Wentian to succeed. This was equivalent to Luo Huan and Gu Xing directly sending Qin Wentian to the second towering platform, allowing him to contend against the 4th to 6th rankers for a better ranking. In that case, do the two of you still want to fight? The old man glanced at Luo Huan and Gu Xing. No need, I forfeit. Gu Xing calmly replied. After which, he sat down on the ground, as though everything in the outside world had nothing to do with him. Such a situation caused many to feel pity. The 3 participants from the third group actually didn't even have to fight. But luckily, the following battles would definitely be extremely fascinating. Qin Wentian is temporarily ranked 7th, Luo Huan is ranked 8th, Gu Xing is ranked 9th, the old man calmly announced. After which, his gaze shifted onto the second towering platform. On this platform, there were only 3 participants, Second Sword, Chu Chen and Ho Tai. The first battle, Second Sword versus Ho Tai. As the sound of the old man's voice faded, the atmosphere instantly tensed up. Looks of anticipation could be seen in the eyes of the spectators. Second Sword was very strong, but unfortunately for him, his opponent was Luo Qianqiu. Hence, he could only be defeated. However, he used his absolute sword techniques to suppress Luo Huan. His sword techniques were tyrannical and tyrannical, similar to Orkan's spear techniques. Based on the payout rates given by Drunken Wonder, Second Sword and Ho Tai were both favored to enter the top 3 rankings. However, Ho Tai's battle with Orkan was extremely intense. Now that the two of them clashed, the spectators were filled with anticipation. Who would be the victor? The astral souls of both of them erupted forth. Second Sword wielded a sharp sword, while Ho Tai transformed into a terrifying ancient demon. The two of them instantly clashed together. The terrifying collision caused the hearts of the spectators to pound unceasingly. The platform seemed to be engulfed by the sword light and the demonic chi. That terrifying aura enveloped the entire space. Roar! After a long period of time, Ho Tai consecutively roared out 9 times, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. His fists that were as violent as a demonic beast destroyed the sword light, and after which, his fist landed on Second Sword's defensive sword light, causing Second Sword's body to be directly flung through the air. Ho Tai's movements hadn't stopped yet. He soared up into the air and chased after Second Sword, landing 2 more punches on him, forcing him off the platform. Ho Tai had defeated Second Sword, causing many to sigh in admiration. It was too terrifying. It seemed that although the payout rates given by Drunken Wonder could be used as a reference to one's strength, it wasn't completely accurate. Ho Tai's popularity was slightly lower than Second Sword's, but he had actually defeated Second Sword. You guys take a short break. The first towering platform, Orkan against Sikong Mingyue. The old man calmly spoke. He actually wanted the battles to be staggered, giving those who had just fought some time to rest and not delaying the Junlin banquet. There wasn't much suspense in the battle between Orkan and Sikong Mingyue. Although Orkan was also very strong, Sikong Mingyue was still Sikong Mingyue. Just like what Heaven's Wonder had predicted, Orkan had already locked in the top 2 of the top 3 rankings. Although in theory, there was still a possibility of overturning the rankings, the possibility was simply too small. As for Qin Wentian, he was currently sitting cross-legged, like a quiet cultivator. It was as though everything happening in the outside world had nothing to do with him. He had yet to completely comprehend the second stance of the great dream halberd art, Fallen Star. How could he miss out on such an opportunity? Next, he would have to face the most intense battles. He had to adjust his condition to the peak, and accept the challenges that belonged to him. Second sword against Chu Chen. The voice of the old man drifted over, causing the gazes of the spectators to be fixated on the second towering platform. Second sword had already been defeated once. This time, he wouldn't allow himself to be defeated again. If not, Snowcloud Country would become nothing more than a foil. Earlier, when Chu Chen fought against Sikong Mingyue, he directly admitted defeat, conserving his strength. Nobody knew exactly how strong he was. But when he clashed against Second Sword, everyone knew that this was the first time Chu Chen had released both of his astral souls. What's that first astral soul? It's actually a scepter. Someone in the crowd stared at one of Chu Chen's astral souls, as they exclaimed in shock. The Amethyst Astral Soul is an astral soul condensed from the Emperor Amethyst constellation. It's the symbol of an emperor. Who would have thought that Chu Chen would also have the ability to form a connection with the Amethyst constellation? Chu Tianjiao's first astral soul is also the Amethyst constellation. Someone sighed. In the 9 astral rivers, there were many bizarre constellations. The Amethyst constellation that represented the Emperor was one of them. Chapter 136. The 9 heavenly layers were filled with boundless mysteries. There were some bizarre constellations that could appear in any of the heavenly layers. However, for some constellations, not everyone would be able to form a connection with them. They would choose their master, and in fact, there were some even more miraculous constellations that would automatically choose their cultivators. When your consciousness passed by, the constellation would guide you, allowing you to form a connection with it and condense an astral soul belonging to that particular constellation. Chu Tianjiao and Chu Chen were both members of the royal clan, and had the fate of an emperor. Yet both of them had condensed an astral soul, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble. The people of Chu all knew how powerful the Amethyst Astral Soul was. This astral soul was in the form of a scepter, and had the ability to amplify one's strength. Any type of attack would be amplified by the Amethyst Astral Soul. In fact, it could even amplify the strength of other astral souls. Chu Chen actually had the Amethyst Astral Soul. This indicated that Chu Chen had been concealing his true strength in the previous battles, and hadn't gone all out. And now, it had finally blossomed. As for Chu Chen's second astral soul, it was in the form of a palm imprint. One could imagine that the astral soul he condensed would also be a gigantic palm imprint constellation. Please. Chu Chen smiled. Second Sword's gaze grew heavy, as he released his sword light. Chu Chen stepped out, and with a flick of his palms, his astral soul was infused into his palms. In an instant, countless palm imprints erupted forth, frenziedly attacking Second Sword. What a fast attack speed! The eyes of the spectators narrowed. In that short instant, they saw countless palm imprints madly blasting forth. Although Second Sword's sword was sharp, it was too much for the eyes to take in as he frenziedly clashed against the incoming palm imprints. His sword was as fast as the wind, but it was still unable to block the frenzied palm imprints. Finally, Chu Chen defeated Second Sword, and he would be contending against Ho Tai for the 4th position of the Junlin banquet. Orkan vs. Luo Qianqiu. The old man spoke, causing the gazes of the spectators to once again land on the first towering platform. There was no suspense in this battle. Although Orkan was extremely powerful, he was still completely suppressed by Luo Qianqiu, who had the highest chance of obtaining the top ranking. The crowd could only sigh in admiration. Luo Qianqiu was simply too powerful. Most probably, only Xikong Mingyue would be able to contend against him. Following the conclusion of the battle between Orkan and Luo Qianqiu, the spectators could already foresee that the most intense battle was about to begin. After the battle between Chu Chen and Hou Tai, it would be Luo Qianqiu and Xikong Mingyue's turn to fight for the position of the top ranker in the Junlin banquet. Chu Chen vs Hou Tai. As the old man's voice faded, the second battle platform was about to welcome the final battle. Chu Chen looked at Hou Tai with a calm expression and slowly said, "You are not my opponent, there is no need to risk your life. After I defeat you, I will enter the top 3. When the crowd heard Chu Chen's calm voice, they couldn't help but be startled in their hearts. Before this, Chu Chen had directly forfeited his battle against Xikong Mingyue. Hence, the majority of the crowd didn't think that he would win. However, no one would have thought that Chu Chen was actually intentionally avoiding his battle against Xikong Mingyue. He wanted to obtain the number 1 position on the second towering platform. This way, he would be able to contend for the top 3 rankings in his most perfect state. In reality, Chu Chen's confidence was backed by his overwhelming strength. Although Hou Tai's combat prowess was tyrannical, Chu Chen still defeated him and obtained the qualifications to contend for the top 3 rankings. After this battle, Chu Chen was temporarily ranked number 4, Hou Tai number 5, second sword number 6. At this moment, the gazes of the spectators shifted onto the first towering platform. Was Xikong Mingyue and Luo Qianqiu going to have their final battle? The battle between Luo Qianqiu and Xikong Mingyue will be postponed. Chu Chen vs Orkan. If Chu Chen is defeated, the top 3 rankings will be determined. If Chu Chen wins, the final battle for the top 3 rankings will proceed. The old man's voice seemed to have shattered the fantasies of the spectators. However, this was fine as well. They also wanted to see who was stronger between Chu Chen and Orkan. The final battle for the top 3 rankings. In the direction of the Emperor's Star Academy, Old Gu laughed, "Sir, you seem to have forgotten about someone." Strange expressions appeared on the faces of the spectators as they shifted their gazes to the lone silhouette sitting on the platform with his eyes closed. Evidently, Old Gu was referring to Qin Wentian. However, even if he hadn't forgotten, would Qin Wentian be able to fight his way into the top 3 rankings? Even Second Sword and Hou Tai wouldn't be able to pass the 2 major hurdles. After the battle between Orkan and Chu Chen ends, I will give him a chance. Let's see how far he can go. That old man calmly stated. Evidently, he didn't think highly of Qin Wentian. Even the Second Sword, who was initially thought highly of, could only be ranked number 6 in the Junlin banquet. From this, one could see how intense the battles were, and how strong these participants were. It was an impossible mission for Qin Wentian to fight his way into the top 3 rankings. If he could step into the 8th level of the arterial circulation realm, based on Qin Wentian's combat prowess, he might have a chance to fight his way into the top 3 rankings. However, one's cultivation base wasn't something that could be broken so easily. Cultivation required one to take one step at a time, and the only way to increase one's cultivation base was through hard work and accumulation. Yuan meteor stones and precious medicinal pills could increase one's cultivation speed, but it was impossible for one to break through just because they wanted to. Prince Chen, you won't be able to snatch away one of the top 3 rankings. Orkan's voice was filled with an intense sense of self-confidence. Although he was familiar with Chu Chen, this was a battle of honor. He would definitely give it his all. Orkan, although your strength is tyrannical, there will definitely be a spot for me in the top 3 rankings. Not only that, I will make up for the regret I had earlier by challenging Xikong Mingyue and Luo Qianqiu. Since you have already been defeated, it's time for you to give up your position. Chu Chen's voice was filled with immense self-confidence. Both of them had the conviction and determination to win. Orkan had already obtained one of the top 3 rankings, how could he give it up? If he was pushed down, where would his face be? Orkan, you have to win. Many people had placed their bets on Orkan obtaining one of the top 3 rankings. At this moment, they were all silently praying in their hearts that Orkan would definitely defeat Chu Chen. If not, the bets they had placed on Orkan would fly away. In that case, let's fight. Orkan brandished his long spear as his battle intent soared to the heavens. He had already lost to Luo Qianqiu and Sikong Mingyue. This battle was for the sake of glory. A raging wind gusted by, the spear's shadows were like a dream. A resplendent silvery light blossomed, and when he collided with Chu Chen, it was as though a rain of spears had appeared on the platform, resplendent and resplendent. However, Chu Chen merely sent out a palm strike, extinguishing the rain of spears. He stared at Orkan as he calmly stated, "In order to show my respect to you, I will let you see my true strength. Now, use your strongest attack." As the sound of his voice faded, within Chu Chen's body, the power of his bloodline started to surge. His silhouette seemed to grow taller and taller. The royal clan of Chu possessed the bloodline of an emperor. This was also the reason why they were able to rule the Chu country for 3,000 years. The amethyst astral soul, the bloodline of an emperor, in addition to the hard work of generations of members of the royal clan, created the history of the Chu country that spanned 3,000 years. In this world where martial prowess reigned supreme, the so-called rule was built on the foundation of one's strength. Orkan froze for a moment before he sighed. "I didn't expect that Prince Chen had also awakened the power of his bloodline. Since this is the case, I won't be polite." Sensing the power of Chu Chen's bloodline, Orkan understood that the chances of him winning this battle were getting smaller and smaller. Could it be that Orkan is really going to be defeated? Chu Chen, this dark horse, is going to slaughter his way into the top 3. Many people felt somewhat vexed. Could it be that they had been cheated by Heaven's Wonder? Or could it be that Heaven's Wonder didn't know that Chu Chen had been concealing his strength all this while? Orkan's long spear pierced out, causing a lotus to bloom. Thousands of spear lights erupted simultaneously, filling the entire sky with starlight. Finally, they converged into an extremely powerful spear shadow, advancing forward with indomitable will. Chu Chen's bloodline limit and the amplification effect of his Emperor Violet astral soul stacked together as he blasted out a palm imprint. Only Orkan could understand how terrifying his palm imprint was under the effects of the dual amplification effect. That long spear that seemed capable of breaking apart everything in its path couldn't advance any further, as it was forcefully blocked. Orkan understood that he had already been defeated. Inclining his head to look at Chu Chen, Orkan sighed as he stated, "I initially thought that I would be able to obtain one of the top 3 positions in this Junlin banquet. Who would have thought that I would only be ranked number 4? However, with Prince Chen's strength, obtaining one of the top 3 positions is already well deserved." After speaking, Orkan bowed to Chu Chen, expressing his respect for Chu Chen. "You are already very strong. It's just that the competition this year is too intense. Let's compare who will be the first to step into Yuanfu." Chu Chen smiled as he spoke. "Fine." Orkan nodded his head as a carefree smile appeared on his face, no longer thinking about his defeat. In such an intense Junlin banquet, obtaining the 4th position was already considered not bad. And now, the top 3 positions of the Junlin banquet had already been determined. Luo Qianqiu, Sikong Mingyue, and Chu Chen. The 4th to 6th positions were also temporarily determined. Orkan, Ho Tai, and Second Sword. Now, the only variable was Qin Wentian. However, although Qin Wentian's strength was extraordinary, no one was optimistic about his chances. After all, if he wanted to advance, his first opponent would be the powerful Second Sword. At this moment, what the spectators were most looking forward to was the final battle for the top 3 positions. The gaze of the old man shifted onto Qin Wentian, who was sitting cross-legged, as he asked, "Do you want to compete?" Qin Wentian opened his eyes as he stopped his cultivation. "Naturally." Fine, the first battle shall be against second sword. The old man spoke, only to see second sword staring at Qin Wentian as an intense aura of sharpness gushed forth from him. Initially, he was the one who was favored to obtain the top 3 positions, but now, he was ranked number 6. This caused him to feel a sense of humiliation. And now, Qin Wentian actually dared to challenge him. A boundless sword intent gushed forth from the tyrannical air. Second sword inclined his head as his eyes transformed into sharp swords that slowly shifted towards Qin Wentian. In an instant, 2 beams of sword light shot towards Qin Wentian. If you wish to die, I will grant you your wish. I will avenge third knight on his behalf. Second sword's voice was as sharp as a sword. There wasn't a single part of his body that didn't exude a terrifying sword aura. Within his sword, there was arrogance, unwillingness, and killing intent. He wanted to use Qin Wentian's blood to wash away the humiliation of the Junlin banquet. His snowcloud country had actually been defeated so miserably. Only Sikong Mingyue managed to enter the top 3, and he was the only one left in the top 9. Chapter 137. The killing intent radiating from second sword caused the spectators to feel a chill down their spines. Qin Wentian had slain third knight, and in addition to second sword's consecutive defeats, he was pushed down to the 6th position. But now, he had to face Qin Wentian's challenge. From this, one could very well imagine the state of second sword's heart. He wanted to kill Qin Wentian to vent his anger and wash away the humiliation of being defeated twice in a row. Qin Wentian is in danger. The spectators mused. Second sword wanted to use his sword to take Qin Wentian's life. Finally, second sword's sword chi erupted forth as a terrifying beam of sword light descended from the skies, slashing towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian brandished his ancient halberd as his silhouette flickered, moving as fast as lightning. The beam of sword light slashed past him, lacerating the entire platform. Qin Wentian seemed as though he didn't feel anything. He stood there calmly, his hand holding onto the ancient halberd was as steady as ever. Second sword silhouette flickered as he chased after Qin Wentian. His palms trembled as countless beams of sword light slashed out, resembling a river of swords. Qin Wentian unleashed his movement technique to the extreme. A pair of Garuda wings appeared on his back as numerous afterimages appeared in the air, but they were all destroyed by the sword light. Die! Second sword roared in rage as his sword shot out like a shadow, piercing towards Qin Wentian's true body. On the platform, a terrifying tempest had already formed, tearing everything apart. Bzz. Qin Wentian finally unleashed his attack. His ancient halberd slashed out with the Azure Dragon stance. The Azure Dragon howled in rage, but it wasn't as sharp as the sword light and was actually destroyed by it. However, Qin Wentian simultaneously blasted out with his left palm. A mountainous palm imprint pressed downwards, the speed of his attack was so fast that it shocked the spectators. Sword light flashed once again as second sword slashed out horizontally. Pooh! Qin Wentian spat out sword light as he leapt into the air, causing the eyes of the spectators to narrow. Wasn't this fellow afraid of death? Second sword wanted to kill him, but since he wasn't a Yuanfu cultivator, he wouldn't be able to soar through the air as he pleased. Sooner or later, he would have to land on the ground. However, very quickly, they discovered that they were wrong. Qin Wentian, who was in the air, was like a true Garuda demonic beast. He could actually soar through the air, executing the Azure Dragon stance and White Tiger stance of the Berserk Beast halberd art. In an instant, it was unknown how many attacks he had unleashed. At the same time, he spat out countless beams of sharp sword light as his left hand slammed out with the revolving sea imprint. He even used the falling mountain palms as a stepping stone in the air, using the divine ability to step in the air for him. This kind of thinking was simply unimaginable. Incomparably violent attacks rained down from the sky, pressuring second sword's swift sword to the point where it was a little messed up. Qin Wentian's ancient halberd, left hand, both legs, and mouth all unleashed attacks. Such a battle scene was something that the spectators had never seen before, and they couldn't help but to be stunned. The consumption of astral energy in his astral body must be immense. The spectators were speechless when they saw this. The sword light of second sword completely gave up on attacking, completely changing to a defensive stance. It danced about in an impenetrable manner, and even when Qin Wentian landed on the ground, the sword light still enveloped his body. That resplendent sword screen was incomparably resplendent. However, the spectators all had strange expressions on their faces as they stared at the arena. Qin Wentian's movements were too fast, and at this moment, it was as though second sword was performing a sword dance by himself. It was extremely comical. Second sword naturally discovered this as well. His sword light slowed down as he retracted his defensive stance. But at the same instant, Qin Wentian made his move. For second sword, it was as though he had forgotten how fast Qin Wentian's speed was. For second sword, it was as though he had forgotten how third knight had died. The great dream halberd art, mountain splitter. This halberd strike was like a dream. Under second sword's hasty defense, the halberd directly shattered his sword, and pierced right into his head. Only to see second sword opening his mouth, as though he wanted to admit defeat. However, he no longer had the chance to do so. Before he could utter these two words, his life had already come to an end. It's that halberd strike again. The expressions of the spectators froze as they witnessed this scene. This halberd strike was too fast, too powerful. Third knight had died under this halberd strike, and now, second sword had also fallen under this halberd strike. Second sword was too careless. At the instant he retracted his defensive stance and didn't have the time to attack, Qin Wentian had already taken away his life. Second sword's strength is extremely powerful. What a pity that he died just like that. He was one of the top 9 rankers of the Junlin banquet, yet he actually died on the arena. Many people sighed in their hearts. But there was only a single chance. If second sword had known the result, he definitely wouldn't have dared to be so arrogant, revealing his killing intent towards Qin Wentian so thoroughly. Following the death of second sword, the only one remaining from Snowcloud was Sikong Mingyue. Most probably, his hatred for Qin Wentian had already seeped into his bones. Since you wish for death, I shall grant you your wish. Qin Wentian pulled out his ancient halberd. Filled with an intense unwillingness and despair, second sword's thoughts ceased as his body slumped to the ground. This genius from Snowcloud, one of the top 3 rankers of the Junlin banquet, was now buried in a foreign land. Many people involuntarily turned their gazes onto Sikong Mingyue, only to see an intense killing intent gushing forth from him. His sharp eyes stared at Qin Wentian, not concealing the killing intent in the slightest. It's best if you don't step onto the platform for the top 3 rankers. Sikong Mingyue drew in a deep breath. Qin Wentian had used 2 massacres to humiliate Wu Xiu from Snowcloud. And the reason for this was because he had acted against Luo Huan. How could he, Sikong Mingyue, not seek revenge? At this moment, an intense desire arose in his heart. He hoped that Qin Wentian would be able to slaughter his way to the top 3 rankers, standing in front of him and enduring his wrath. Wait for me. Qin Wentian calmly stared at his opponent, as he indifferently stated. He would definitely go for the top 3 rankers. Since he had missed the chance to fight against Sikong Mingyue earlier, he would kill his way to the top 3 rankers of the Junlin banquet. That halberd strike, was that Qin Wentian's trump card? How powerful indeed. Next, he will fight against Ho Tai. Although Ho Tai's defense is extremely strong, there's still a chance that that halberd strike would break through his defenses. The spectators mused in their hearts, while the old man on the platform stared at Qin Wentian. Do you need to rest? Let's fight the next battle. Qin Wentian calmly replied. Okay, the second battle shall be against Ho Tai. The old man spoke. Ho Tai walked towards Qin Wentian. He had obtained the number 5 ranking in the Junlin banquet, but who would have thought that today, he would encounter a challenger like Qin Wentian? Orkan was also staring at Qin Wentian. As long as he could defeat Ho Tai, Qin Wentian would be able to stand in front of him. Evidently, he hadn't expected that Qin Wentian, who had been absent from the Junlin banquet, would still have the opportunity to kill his way to him. You are not my opponent. I don't wish to waste any more astral energy. Step aside. Qin Wentian stared at Ho Tai, his calm voice containing no traces of savagery, yet it gave off a feeling of arrogance. He directly wanted Ho Tai to step aside for him. Aren't you a little too confident in your own strength? Although you killed Second Sword, it didn't seem to be an easy victory. Ho Tai coldly spoke. Was Qin Wentian trying to humiliate him? That halberd strike earlier, were you able to withstand it? Qin Wentian asked. Although that halberd strike was extremely powerful, I was still able to defend against it. Ho Tai pondered for a moment before replying in a serious tone. Earlier, Qin Wentian had used his halberd to kill Second Sword. Naturally, he had seen it clearly. Maybe, you have never truly experienced it before. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, his aura abruptly changed. The ancient halberd pierced out, and at this moment, Ho Tai's countenance stiffened. He had a feeling that he couldn't defend against this attack. This halberd strike of Qin Wentian hadn't truly pierced out. It was actually just a demonstration for him to see. I don't wish to use a pointless battle to prove anything. You won't be able to block my path. Even if you can defend against this halberd strike, what if I continue to strike out with it? Qin Wentian asked again. Ho Tai fell silent, and after a moment, he replied, such an attack would definitely consume a great amount of astral energy. If you use it repeatedly, how would you be able to fight in the future? You want to use your life to bet against the consumption of my astral energy? Qin Wentian countered, causing Ho Tai to be speechless. The two of them still didn't exchange blows. After a few breaths of time, Ho Tai spoke again. I grew up in the dark forest, killing countless demonic beasts and condensing a dual-beast astral soul. My attack prowess is unrivaled among those at the same level as me. Yet you, with a cultivation base at the 7th level of arterial circulation, actually have such an attack. May I ask, what halberd technique is this? What grade of innate technique is it, and where did you learn it from? The Great Dream halberd technique is named Mountain Splitter. I don't know what grade it is exactly, but I created it myself. Qin Wentian replied, causing many to draw in a breath of cold air. Such a tyrannical strike wasn't from an innate technique he cultivated, but rather, it was something he created himself. If this was the case, Qin Wentian was indeed a genius in the martial Tao. After hearing this, Ho Tai froze. After which, he bowed to Qin Wentian, before raising his head and saying, what you can do, is indeed something I can't do. Seems like my self-proclaimed talent is nothing more than a frog in a well. Although I can't fight against you, this trip to the Junlin banquet has not been in vain. After which, he walked to the side, sighing at his own inferiority. He actually directly admitted defeat, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble with shock. This Ho Tai appeared to be a barbarian, but in reality, this wasn't the case. For someone at his level, how could he not have his own beliefs and pursuits? As Ho Tai admitted defeat, Qin Wentian only needed a single battle to enter the 5th rank of the Junlin banquet. Next, in front of him, was Orkan. As long as he defeated Orkan, he would have the qualifications to contend for the top 3 rankings. This caused the spectators to sigh with emotion. The battles of the Junlin banquet today were truly filled with ups and downs, completely out of everyone's expectations. Chapter 138. At this moment, there were only 4 contenders in front of Qin Wentian. Luo Qianqiu, Sikong Mingyue, Chu Chen, and Orkan. These 4 were undoubtedly the strongest contenders in this Junlin banquet. But now, there seemed to be an additional variable, Qin Wentian. Based on Qin Wentian's strength, he should be able to fight against Orkan. As for the top 3 rankings, it's impossible. After all, the strength Chu Chen displayed earlier was simply too tyrannical. The spectators mused in their hearts. At this moment, the old man beside Chu Tianjiao also officially announced the battle between Qin Wentian and Orkan. The grudge between Orkan and Qin Wentian had a very long history. Back then, when Qin Wentian first entered the royal capital and participated in the entrance examination of the Emperor's Star Academy, Orkan was insufferably arrogant. How could him at that time place a mere Qin Wentian in his eyes? However, in the short span of a year, Qin Wentian had appeared on the platform of the Junlin banquet, standing opposite of him. Such a situation caused the spectators to sigh, even Orkan himself. Orkan didn't say anything. His long spear pierced straight towards Qin Wentian. There was no need for words between the two of them, because it was obvious that both of them wanted to take each other's life. The long spear pierced through the air as the lotus abruptly blossomed. That incomparably resplendent spear light appeared once again, so dazzling. For the first strike, Orkan erupted forth with all his strength. This. The spectators were speechless. Very quickly, they discovered that Qin Wentian also had the same thoughts as Orkan. The first stance of the great dream halberd art, Mountain Splitter, erupted forth, akin to the strike of a supreme expert. The spear light and the halberd light clashed together, creating a terrifying hurricane. Orkan's long spear trembled as it shot out explosively once again. The lotus was born and destroyed and reborn, the spear light was eternal. Qin Wentian's mountain splitter erupted forth once more, as the terrifying attacks of the two of them clashed against each other. This mountain splitter was infused with the divine energy of the mountains, and from this, one could see how tyrannical Orkan's attacks were. Neither of them was willing to take half a step back. For the third time, they collided. This time around, Qin Wentian spun the ancient halberd in his hands, causing the crescent blade to directly hook onto the long spear. After which, he slashed his hands towards the front of the ancient halberd, as though he had given up on the ancient halberd. Using the speed of the Garuda movement technique, he sped towards Orkan. Kill! Qin Wentian roared in rage as he spat out a sharp sword from his mouth. Orkan's expression froze as he similarly gave up on his spear. He slapped out with his palms, and a terrifying attack instantly shattered the sword light. Boom! Terrifying mountain god Yuan energy completely erupted as he struck out with the falling mountain palms. Orkan's expression froze. His close combat ability wasn't as tyrannical as Qin Wentian's. However, having given up on his spear, he could only fight against Qin Wentian with his bare hands. Rumble. Orkan only felt his arms trembling, while Qin Wentian spat out endless streams of sword light. Orkan retreated backwards, wanting to increase the distance between them. However, how could Qin Wentian give him the chance to do so? Qin Wentian stabbed out with a finger. This finger strike seemed to contain the will of a dream, causing Orkan to feel as though he was hallucinating. That was a sharp sword, an ancient halberd that wanted to break apart everything. Orkan, retreat! A throaty voice rang out. Orkan's countenance stiffened as he explosively retreated. However, the finger strike of Qin Wentian still landed on his palm. Sizzling sounds rang out as blood gushed out from Orkan's palms. Boom! Qin Wentian's left hand struck out once more, causing an expression of despair to appear on Orkan's face. He lifted his palms to defend, but the falling mountain palms slammed into his body. In that instant, he felt his internal organs trembling as his entire body was flung through the air. Qin Wentian still had no intentions of letting him off. He soared up into the air and chased after Orkan. I concede. Orkan roared in rage. Qin Wentian wanted to act, but he was still a step too late. His silhouette landed on the ground, while Orkan was ruthlessly slammed into the ground below the platform. This battle, Qin Wentian was the victor. Orkan crawled up, coughing out a mouthful of fresh blood. His countenance was as ugly as it could be. He had actually lost to Qin Wentian. Raising his head, he saw Qin Wentian walking to the edge of the platform, looking down at him. Such a scene caused Orkan's countenance to turn even paler, as he felt an endless sense of humiliation. Once, he was hunted down by his younger brother, Orphan. An existence that he viewed as an ant, was now looking down at him. A year ago, you were riding on a warhorse, pointing your spear at me when I was participating in the Emperor's Star Academy's examination. At that time, the disparity between us was as vast as the Milky Way. Qin Wentian calmly continued, and now, a year has passed. From the body refinement realm back then, to the current you, Orkan, do you feel ashamed when others refer to you as a genius? Orkan's face was so red that it seemed as though blood was about to drip out. With a wah sound, he coughed out another mouthful of fresh blood. Qin Wentian was obviously intentionally humiliating Orkan. If I were you, I'm afraid that from now on, I would no longer have the face to talk about cultivation. Qin Wentian spoke as he turned and departed. In the Chu Emperor district, countless spectators had personally witnessed the unforeseen events of the Junlin banquet, as their hearts trembled. Initially, they had thought that Chu Chen would be the greatest variable, but who would have thought that Qin Wentian would appear as well? After defeating Orkan, Qin Wentian had seized the fourth position, and according to the rules, he had the right to face the top three. Ever since he had been absent from the Junlin banquet, he had climbed all the way to the top three. But now, Qin Wentian's path should have come to an end. Currently, the three people in front of Qin Wentian were all invincible. Luo Qianqiu, Sikong Mingyue, and Chu Chen. The three of them were the same as Qin Wentian, having proven their strength. I can give you 2 hours to rest. The old man spoke to Qin Wentian. Senior, who shall I fight next? Qin Wentian stared at the old man as he asked. Chu Chen defeated Orkan before you and advanced to the top three. If you wish to enter the top three, you have to fight him first. The old man replied. The spectators nodded their heads in agreement. This arrangement was indeed reasonable. Although Luo Qianqiu and the other two hadn't been ranked yet, Chu Chen himself had relied on the fact that he had challenged Orkan to climb up the rankings. The victor between Qin Wentian and Chu Chen could then challenge the other two. There's no need to rest. Qin Wentian calmly spoke, causing the gazes of the crowd to be filled with splendor. How arrogant, to actually say that there was no need to rest. Next, he would have to face Chu Chen, a descendant of the royal clan, who possessed both an astral soul and a bloodline limit. Since this is the case, Chu Chen, you shall fight against Qin Wentian. The old man agreed to Qin Wentian's suggestion, allowing Chu Chen to fight against him directly. As Chu Chen walked towards Qin Wentian, the hearts of many in the crowd palpitated. For this battle, if Qin Wentian won, he would definitely be one of the top three. Previously, the payout rate for Qin Wentian to become one of the top three was 100, and then 180. Although there weren't many who placed their bets on Qin Wentian, there were still some who tried their luck. For example, Fatty. If Qin Wentian really defeated Chu Chen, how much wealth would he be able to earn? Boss, do your best. Fatty shouted from below, his face flushed red with excitement, causing many in the crowd to stare at him with strange expressions on their faces. Fatty shrunk his head, only now did he realize that he had been too high profile. However, he was truly excited. If Qin Wentian won, he would have over 1,000 second-layer Yuan meteor stones in his possession. He was already fantasizing about the beautiful future ahead. Let's fight. There were also a few who had casually placed their bets on Qin Wentian, but never in their wildest dreams would they have imagined that Qin Wentian would really reach this step. At this moment, they were filled with boundless anticipation. Their blood was already boiling, as though they were even more excited than Qin Wentian on the platform. Mo Qingqing's face was filled with excitement. Qin Wentian had started to challenge for the top 3 rankings. It wasn't easy. Those from the Mo clan beside her side. With a cultivation base at the 7th level of arterial circulation, Qin Wentian had already reached this step. But wanting to surpass Chu Chen was simply too difficult. In the direction of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, the beautiful eyes of An Luyen shone with a strange light as she commented to Yang Chen, "This little fellow is truly a pleasant surprise." Indeed, his talent in the martial path isn't inferior to his talent in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions. He's definitely a rare genius that only appears once every 100 years. Yang Chen deeply agreed. In the direction of the Emperor's Star Academy, Mustang, Ren Qianqing, and Old Gu were all extremely excited. In the direction of the Star River Association, Zue Yin had a dark expression on his face as he unhappily stated, "Murin ah Murin, you are truly a genius." Murin's countenance was extremely unsightly. He had never expected that Qin Wentian would undergo such a transformation. This was undoubtedly a slap to his face. Those from the Yi clan and O clan all had expressions of unhappiness on their faces. In the past, they hadn't placed much importance on Qin Wentian, but now, he had already become so outstanding. Chu Chen stood opposite to Qin Wentian, only to hear him calmly stating, "Being able to reach this step is truly not an easy task. You can already retire now." Evidently, Chu Chen didn't think that Qin Wentian was his opponent. "You are the same as Orkan. You won't be able to obstruct my path," Qin Wentian calmly stated, staring at his opponent. His determination was unshakable. Not only that, the Qin Wentian now didn't merely possess determination. "Is that so? Let's hope that your strength is as powerful as your words." Chu Chen released both of his astral souls as a terrifying aura gushed forth. Even his blood was seething with rage. Since he had already obtained one of the top 3 rankings, how could he let it leave him? He still wanted to test out how strong Luo Qianxiu and Xikong Mingyue were. A violent aura surged forth, yet Qin Wentian acted as though he didn't see it. Qin Wentian was still holding on to his ancient halberd, his palms as steady as ever. "Make your move," Chu Chen stated. Qin Wentian nodded his head. After which, his silhouette transformed into a blur as he executed the mountain splitter stance of the Great Dream halberd art. In the blink of an eye, he appeared before Chu Chen. Chu Chen howled in rage as a myriad of palm imprints converged together, transforming into a terrifying gigantic palm that blasted towards the ancient halberd. Boom, boom, boom. The terrifying shockwaves reverberated through the air, causing Qin Wentian's body to be forced back. However, Qin Wentian continued advancing as he stabbed out with his halberd once again. This halberd strike was no longer as ferocious as before. However, at the instant the halberd was unleashed, it was as though astral light was flickering in the air. Not only that, numerous runic inscriptions appeared in the air, converging into a vortex of darkness that engulfed everything. Scram! Chu Chen howled in rage as his gigantic palm engulfed the heavens and earth, smashing towards Qin Wentian. At the same time, Qin Wentian executed the second stance of the Great Dream halberd art, Meteor. Boom! A terrifying sound pierced the eardrums of the spectators. The gigantic palm and the meteor collided, causing cracks to appear on the surface of the collision. After which, with a deafening boom, the collision completely dissipated. How is this possible? Chu Chen had an expression of shock on his face. After which, he saw Qin Wentian's ancient halberd rushing over. The first stance, Mountain Splitter, was as fast as lightning, destroying everything in its path. It broke apart the palm imprints that Chu Chen didn't have time to condense, and directly arrived before his throat. "I've said it before. You won't be able to obstruct my path." Qin Wentian's ancient halberd slammed out horizontally, as a mountainous force blasted Chu Chen off the platform, sparing Chu Chen's life. In the air, Qin Wentian's calm yet arrogant voice reverberated through the air. Chu Chen was still unable to obstruct his advance. After this battle, Qin Wentian domineeringly stepped into the top 3 of the Jun Lin banquet. Chapter 139. Top 3. Qin Wentian had defeated Orkan and Chu Chen in a domineering fashion, entering the top 3 rankings. At this moment, the gazes of countless people focused on him. This youth with the title of genius wanted everyone to remember him. Nobody had forgotten his declaration. His name was Qin Wentian, son of Qin Chuan, Qin Wentian of the Qin clan in Sky Harmony City. How handsome! Fatty stared at the sky with his eyes closed. Drawing in a deep breath, an expression of intoxication could be seen on his chubby face. From now onwards, his wealth was sufficient for him to squander for a long time. In the future, he would no longer need to be restrained when chasing after girls. This feeling of being rich was simply too wonderful. I fucking bet on him. A shrill voice rang out from the crowd. Qin Wentian was one of the top 3. That seemingly impossible thing had become a reality. We've really struck it rich this time. The young man beside Immortal Drunken Wine also had a warm smile on his face. He had also bet 100 yuan meteor stones on Qin Wentian, and according to the payout rate, he should have received 10,000 yuan meteor stones. Heaven's Wonder is going to cry. Immortal Drunken Wine laughed. What's there to cry about? So many people came to place their bets, but only a few bet on Qin Wentian. I think Heaven's Wonder has also earned a huge sum of money. The young man laughed as he continued, it's just that I've gotten a share of the profits from them. Naturally, the bet made by Heaven's Wonder only added color to the Junlin banquet. The reason why Qin Wentian had obtained the top 3 rankings wasn't because of the bet made by Heaven's Wonder. From today onwards, Qin Wentian, you have created a miracle in Chu. In the Junlin banquet, there has never been a cultivator at the 7th level of arterial circulation who obtained the top 3 rankings. You are the first. In the direction of the Mo clan, Mo Qingqing's father, Mo Tianlin, laughed, causing many to be startled. That's right, Qin Wentian had created an unprecedented miracle in Chu. Obtaining the top 3 rankings with a cultivation base at the 7th level of arterial circulation. Qin Wentian glanced at Mo Tianlin, and upon seeing Mo Qingqing making a face at him, he instantly guessed who Mo Tianlin was. He smiled, Senior is too kind with your praise. Work hard. Today, you are a pioneer in Chu. In the future, you will also become a legend in Chu. Mo Tianlin smiled at Qin Wentian, causing many in the crowd to speculate. Was the legend of Chu referring to a character like his father? The strongest existence under the Heavenly Dipper realm in Chu. Mo Tianlin's declaration also caused ripples in the hearts of many families and forces. He was openly expressing his friendliness towards Qin Wentian. It's indeed rare. And Lu Yan from the Divine Weapon Pavilion smiled, her words causing many in the crowd to cast a deep glance in the direction of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Before this, they had never appeared in the spectator stands of the Junlin banquet. Most probably, the reason they came out this time was because of Qin Wentian, who had an exceedingly high level of talent in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions. Ha, a youth that's not even 17 years of age is able to create such a legend. One can only imagine how glorious his future will be. Maybe, his statue will be engraved in front of the Emperor's Star Monument, allowing the future generations to revere him. In the direction of the Emperor's Star Academy, Old Gu laughed heartily. He had an extremely high evaluation of Qin Wentian, as though he wanted to dilute Luo Qianqiu's influence. Engraved his statue in front of the Emperor's Star Academy's Emperor's Star Monument. Many drew in a deep breath, as they sighed with emotion. Qin Wentian really did have such potential. Didn't those legendary characters also mature step by step when they were young? Maybe, they would have the chance to witness the growth of a future legend. However, there were some who were happy, while there were others who were unhappy. Those from the Yi clan and O clan were all unhappy. Their countenances were extremely heavy, as they regretted not placing too much importance on Qin Wentian back then. They had hoped that Orkan would be the one to cause his death, allowing him to grow step by step to where he was today. Yi Zhan, who was standing behind the Yi clan, had an ashen expression on his face. Back then, Qin Wentian wasn't even comparable to him. But now, Qin Wentian was no longer someone on the same level as him. Especially since he had said many words of disdain to Qin Wentian in front of Lu Yen. But now, it was as though he was smacking his face. He will stop here as well. Yi Zhan spoke in a low voice. Even so, he knew that he was lying to himself. Even if Qin Wentian stopped here, it was already sufficient for many to look up to him. Lu Yen, who was standing beside him, remained silent as she stared at Qin Wentian on the platform. Autumn Snow, who was standing not too far away from Lu Yen, had a similar feeling to Lu Yen. That arrogant silhouette, was that the trash of the past? Autumn Snow could still remember the sunny smile on Qin Wentian's face. Although he couldn't cultivate, he was always optimistic and cheerful, running every morning to train his body. Although only a short year had passed, Autumn Snow discovered that her current state of mind was completely different from her state of mind back then. It was as though this year had passed for a very, very long time. Qin Wentian had stepped into the top 3. This meant that he would have the qualifications to contend against Luo Qianqiu and Xikong Mingyue for the final rankings of the June Lin banquet. Xikong Mingyue stared at Qin Wentian as he laughed, seemingly extremely happy. Initially, he was still worried that Qin Wentian wouldn't be able to reach this step. But now, Qin Wentian had done it. Since this was the case, Qin Wentian would have no way to avoid a battle with him. How could such a thing not be worth being happy about? Second sword, third night, their deaths wouldn't be in vain. The humiliation of Snowcloud Country would be washed away by him personally. I'll give you guys 4 hours to rest. The old man calmly stated, his words causing the hearts of the spectators to itch. However, they could also understand. After all, Qin Wentian had fought so many battles consecutively, and his astral energy must have been greatly depleted. Naturally, he would need to replenish his astral energy properly so that he could fight at his peak condition. Let's go to Drunken Wonder to take a look at the payout rates. The crowd left in droves. They wanted to see what the payout rates would be for the final battles of the June Lin banquet. Upon arriving at Drunken Wonder, they discovered that the payout rates for the first ranker had been adjusted. Luo Qianqiu's payout rate was 3, 4, Xikong Mingyue's payout rate was 1, 3, and Qin Wentian's payout rate was 1, 10. Although the payout rates were much lower, it was evident that he was still the one with the most pessimistic odds. After all, Luo Qianqiu and Xikong Mingyue were ranked above him. Naturally, Drunken Wonder had also specially announced the payout rates for the 3 battles between them. Luo Qianqiu against Xikong Mingyue, Luo Qianqiu against Qin Wentian, and Qin Wentian against Xikong Mingyue. However, if Luo Qianqiu defeated Xikong Mingyue, and Xikong Mingyue defeated Qin Wentian, there would be no need for the 3rd battle. But if there was no battle, it would naturally be considered as Qin Wentian's defeat. There were even people who were considering whether they should try their luck since the payout rates for Qin Wentian were so high. Hence, many people began to bet 3 yuan meteor stones on Luo Qianqiu and 1 on Qin Wentian. This way, if Luo Qianqiu won, they wouldn't lose anything, if Qin Wentian won, they would have made a huge profit. But of course, there was also another scenario. If Xikong Mingyue won, they would be the unlucky ones. Naturally, there were also people who felt that there was no meaning in betting like this. It was impossible for Qin Wentian to become the champion. If Luo Qianqiu won, they wouldn't gain anything, and if Xikong Mingyue won, they would lose everything. It was simply not worth it. They might as well bet everything on Qin Wentian, and they might even gain some yuan meteor stones. Fatty Fan Lu didn't continue to bet. He had already earned enough. There was no need for him to take any more risks. 4 hours passed very quickly. On the platform, Luo Qianqiu, Xikong Mingyue and Qin Wentian sat on 3 separate platforms. Qin Wentian held a yuan meteor stone in his hands as he quietly cultivated. In these 4 hours, he had gradually perfected the fallen star stance. He should be able to unleash the might of the fallen star stance like it was in his dreams. At this moment, Xikong Mingyue, who was sitting cross-legged, abruptly opened his eyes. A terrifying killing intent gushed forth in the direction of Qin Wentian, as though it wanted to engulf Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian also opened his eyes. He stared at Sikong Mingyue, before casting a glance at Luo Qianqiu. Regardless of Luo Qianqiu or Sikong Mingyue, both of them wanted his life. These two battles would definitely be the most intense. First battle, Luo Qianqiu versus Sikong Mingyue. At this moment, a voice rang out, causing the entire Chu Emperor district to fall silent. Everyone was staring at the two silhouettes on the platform. That old man didn't allow Qin Wentian to participate in the first battle. Instead, it was Luo Qianqiu and Sikong Mingyue. The battle for first and second place. This battle should be the pinnacle of the Junlin banquet. The hearts of the spectators speculated. Sikong Mingyue walked up the first platform, facing Luo Qianqiu. The two of them simultaneously bowed to each other. Both of them respected the strength of their opponent, and at the same instant, their astral souls shone with a dazzling light. At the instant they released their astral souls, countless people couldn't help but draw in a breath of cold air. Both of them had two astral souls. What was even more terrifying was that although their astral souls were faintly golden in color, they were exceptionally bright. This indicated that both of their astral souls originated from the third heavenly layer. Although Luo Qianqiu had been cultivating in the Emperor's Star Academy for a year, he had never released his two astral souls before. It wasn't because he wanted to keep a low profile, but rather, it was because his pride had no need for him to use his astral souls to display his talent and strength. He had never met an opponent who required him to release his two astral souls. But today, he finally met one. The hearts of the spectators trembled. Luo Qianqiu's astral souls were the Lightning Zephyr astral soul and the Arm astral soul. Sikong Mingyue's astral souls were also from the third heavenly layer, the Seven Slaughters astral soul and the Sword astral soul. Sikong Mingyue actually had a Sword astral soul as well. With such a combination of astral souls, it was inevitable that their attacks would be extremely terrifying. No wonder those who fought against them had no way to resist. After all, in a situation where both parties were at the same cultivation level, the stronger their astral souls were, the more violent the astral energy would be, and the more powerful their attacks would be. Chapter 140. Qin Wentian was also paying close attention to the battle between Luo Qianqiu and Sikong Mingyue. After seeing their astral souls, he recalled the abilities they displayed during their earlier battles. Luo Qianqiu was able to blast out lightning palms that were akin to an arm, incomparably tyrannical. Sikong Mingyue was the same as well. His ancient slaughter word imprint contained a terrifying sharpness within. So it turned out that there was a sword intent hidden within, which allowed his attacks to be incomparably tyrannical. Luo Qianqiu and Sikong Mingyue were undoubtedly more adept than the others when it came to the usage of various types of energy. After all, Sikong Mingyue was one of the duo prides of Snowcloud, and most probably had a great teacher guiding him. As for Luo Qianqiu, he was someone who originated from the Nine Mystical Palace. At this moment, Luo Qianqiu and Sikong Mingyue had already clashed. Behind Luo Qianqiu, there seemed to be a zone of thunder and lightning standing behind him. He advanced forward, his palms frenziedly smashing downwards, wanting to engage in close combat with Sikong Mingyue. However, Sikong Mingyue's ancient slaughter word imprint was also incomparably terrifying. After increasing the distance between him and Luo Qianqiu, a surge of slaughter qi erupted forth. Not only did it contain the sharpness of sword qi, it also contained a surge of pure destructive energy. With such tyrannical strength, one could imagine that as long as one was struck by it, they would instantly die. What a ferocious attack! No wonder the two of them are hailed as the strongest and have the highest probability of becoming the champion. Even with such terrifying attack power, it is not something that others can contend against. It seems that the odds set by Heaven's wonder truly reflect one's strength, the spectators mused. The attacks of the two grew increasingly ferocious, and at the end, all sorts of terrifying innate techniques erupted forth. The entire platform was engulfed by a terrifying storm of slaughter, akin to a domain of lightning and thunder, giving the spectators a feeling that doomsday had arrived. The spectators in the surroundings all had to retreat far away, and those who got too close would be killed. How tyrannical! The crowd exclaimed in admiration. As expected of the battle between the first and second rankers. They were too powerful, and the spectators felt that they weren't even on the same level. Luo Qianqiu's innate technique seems to be even more tyrannical than before. If the battle drags on, I'm afraid he will win. Finally, there was an explosion, and a terrifying destructive aura tore through the space. The two of them separated, and their clothes seemed to have been torn. They seemed to be in a sorry state. However, on their faces, there was a frivolous smile. Awesome, I have nothing to say to be defeated in your hands. You are the champion of the Junlin banquet. Xikong Mingyue laughed, as though they were on the same level. Not only that, in the future, he would have to head to the 9 mystical palace to cultivate. If he could befriend Luo Qianqiu, he would naturally be more than willing. You are also very strong. Being in second place is indeed unfair to you. Luo Qianqiu laughed, he was similarly filled with admiration for Xikong Mingyue. Xikong Mingyue's strength was truly rare. If it wasn't for the sake of the Heavenly Star Pavilion, he wouldn't have participated in the Junlin banquet in the first place. At that time, no one in Chu would be able to stop Xikong Mingyue. With you here, it doesn't matter if you get second place. Xikong Mingyue replied. It was as though the two of them had already decided on the first and second positions. The crowd also sighed in admiration. Heaven's Wonders payout rate wasn't wrong after all. Luo Qianqiu, who had the lowest payout rate, had obtained first place, while Xikong Mingyue was second. The only variable was that Qin Wentian had killed his way into the top 3. After seeing the strength of Luo Qianqiu and Xikong Mingyue, no one believed that Qin Wentian had the strength to defeat them. That was simply impossible. Qin Wentian, who was seated on the 3rd towering platform, had a strange expression on his face when he heard the conversation between the two. Luo Qianqiu was first, and Xikong Mingyue was second. Then, what about him? It seemed like he hadn't even fought before. It was as though the rankings of the Junlin banquet had already ended, and there was already a conclusion to it. Are you guys treating me like thin air? An indifferent voice sounded out from Qin Wentian's mouth. In an instant, the gazes of several people landed on him. Only now did they realize that Qin Wentian also wanted to fight for the top spot. However, the conversation between Luo Qianqiu and Xikong Mingyue earlier had indeed completely disregarded Qin Wentian, treating him like thin air. Luo Qianqiu and Xikong Mingyue, who were in the midst of their conversation, furrowed their brows. Their good mood had been spoiled by Qin Wentian. Luo Qianqiu stared at Qin Wentian. Back then, he had never placed Qin Wentian in his eyes. Even though Qin Wentian had blocked 3 of his attacks, he still didn't place Qin Wentian in his eyes. Because, he was Luo Qianqiu. Back then, in the Emperor Star Academy, if it wasn't for someone pleading for mercy on your behalf, I would have already killed you. After that, in the snowstorm of the royal capital, you were lucky and managed to block 3 of my attacks. In addition to that, in the dark forest, you managed to survive 3 calamities. Who would have thought that today, you would still dare to stand in front of me? Do you really think that I won't be able to kill you? Luo Qianqiu stared at Qin Wentian. So what if Qin Wentian's talent wasn't bad? So what if Qin Wentian had killed his way into the top 3? In his eyes, there was only the top 3. In his eyes, there was no difference between the top 3 and the top 10. Hence, he, Luo Qianqiu, only wanted to be number 1. You are wrong. Qin Wentian stared at Luo Qianqiu as he calmly spat out these 3 words. Luo Qianqiu froze for a moment before laughing. What an ignorant fellow. Is there any right or wrong in this world? Of course there is. I believe that you shouldn't have forgotten that time in the dark forest, you and a group of people chased after me, right? At that time, I unleashed a divine weapon and killed many of them. You didn't dare to get close to me. Qin Wentian calmly spoke. Relying on the might of a divine weapon, you actually feel proud of it? Luo Qianqiu disdainfully replied. Back then in the Emperor's Star Academy, you were so many levels higher than me, yet you could easily kill me. Didn't you also feel proud of it? Qin Wentian laughed. Also, think about it carefully. Since I had that divine weapon in the dark forest, how could I not have it back then in the Emperor's Star Academy? If you really wanted to kill me back then, do you think that the one to die would be me? Qin Wentian's words caused Luo Qianqiu's gaze to freeze as a cold glint of light flickered in his eyes. If that's the case, you would have died without a doubt. That's right, but at the very least, you would have died before me. Hence, I really don't know what you have to be proud of. Qin Wentian mocked, causing Luo Qianqiu to snort coldly. Back then, many people had witnessed that incident, and the Emperor's Star Academy had also circulated it. Now that Qin Wentian had exposed it, it caused Luo Qianqiu to lose all face. Back then, if Ling Hua hadn't appeared to plead for mercy for Qin Wentian, the one to die would have been him, Luo Qianqiu. As for that day in the snowstorm, you and I agreed to exchange 3 moves, and I withstood 3 of them. Yet, you chose to use the 4th move instead. You are unable to use your strength to prove your arrogance, yet you still feel proud of it, mocking me. Could it be that you think this is something worth showing off? Qin Wentian spoke again, causing Luo Qianqiu to fall silent, his countenance incomparably cold. What a sharp-tongued fellow. However, what's the point of all this? In the end, strength speaks for itself. Luo Qianqiu mocked. Qin Wentian slowly stood up, closing his eyes as he drew in a deep breath. When he opened them again, the sharpness in his eyes intensified, akin to the sharpness of an unsheathed sword. He had already made his preparations for the final 2 battles. You are right. In the end, strength speaks for itself. Qin Wentian slowly spoke. In the face of true strength, all words were useless. Let's fight. The gentle voice rang out once more. Although the voice wasn't loud, it seemed to contain a magical power, as though it contained an aura that towered over the heavens, as well as an indomitable determination. At this moment, Qin Wentian stood there, facing off against the 2 most outstanding geniuses of the Junlin banquet. If he wanted to advance, he would have to face off against these 2 geniuses. Xikong Mingyue versus Qin Wentian. At this moment, the old judge spat out a voice, as a tempest gathered in the air. After the spectacular battle between Luo Qianqiu and Xikong Mingyue, would Qin Wentian be able to put up another spectacular battle for the spectators? For this battle, he would be fighting against Xikong Mingyue. If he lost, he would no longer have the qualifications to challenge Luo Qianqiu. Since you want to seek a sense of existence so much, I shall let everyone know that your existence is meaningless. Xikong Mingyue stared at Qin Wentian. At this moment, he had actually calmed down as he slowly spoke. Qin Wentian didn't say anything. He merely raised the ancient halberd in his hands, pointing it in the direction of Xikong Mingyue. His meaning was clear even without words. Xikong Mingyue stepped out, descending onto the 3rd towering platform as he advanced towards Qin Wentian. With every step he took, a surge of slaughter qi would erupt forth, gushing towards Qin Wentian. Not only that, this slaughter qi was getting stronger and stronger. The ignorant are fearless. Both of Xikong Mingyue's astral souls were released, incomparably resplendent. His entire body seemed to be bathed in astral light as the terrifying astral energy of the slaughter constellation surged forth. Qin Wentian similarly released both of his astral souls. His astral souls were even more dazzling compared to Xikong Mingyue's astral souls. He was the only one in the Junlin banquet who still had an advantage in terms of astral souls when facing off against Luo Qianqiu and Xikong Mingyue. What a pity, his cultivation base had already determined that he would never be able to surpass this threshold. Die! Sikong Mingyue's palms trembled as the ancient slaughter character imprint howled, smashing towards Qin Wentian. The ancient halberd pierced through the air, slamming into the ancient slaughter character imprint. However, this was only the beginning. Even so, that single ancient character imprint had already caused Qin Wentian's arms to tremble. From this, one could see how ferocious the attack power of the ancient slaughter character imprint was. Sikong Mingyue stomped ferociously on the air as his slaughter chi howled. One after another, the ancient slaughter character imprint gushed forth, slamming towards Qin Wentian. The might of that attack seemed to want to engulf Qin Wentian, killing Qin Wentian on the spot. Sikong Mingyue shows no mercy in his attacks. Evidently, he wants to kill Qin Wentian, to avenge second sword and third night. The hearts of the spectators were speculating. Qin Wentian, this rising genius, would he be able to walk down the platform alive? Chapter 141. Qin Wentian frenziedly brandished his ancient halberd, activating the mountain-type divine energy of the berserk beast halberd art. Momentarily, a mountain-like Xuanwu shadow appeared in front of him. Despite the terrifying sharpness of the ancient slaughter runes, it still wasn't able to break through his defense. Humph, Sikong Mingyue coldly snorted. He stepped out once more, instantly arriving in front of Qin Wentian. Stretching out his palms, the ancient slaughter runes around him converged together, transforming into a sword of slaughter that blasted towards the Xuanwu shadow. Instantly, cracks appeared on the shadow as Qin Wentian was forced back several steps. A light breeze ruffled Sikong Mingyue's long hair, exuding an unexcelled aura. Qin Wentian wasn't in existence on the same level as him. Today, Qin Wentian would die here, he wouldn't show any mercy at all. I treated you as heir, but since you want to court death, I shall grant you your wish. Sikong Mingyue continued walking forwards as a terrifying storm of slaughter manifested around him. The more it gathered, the stronger it became. His entire person was like a god of death, anyone who stood in his way would be slain. Qin Wentian closed his eyes and drew in a deep breath, causing the crowd to be stunned. At such a moment, he actually still had the mood to close his eyes? Was he waiting for death? The crowd didn't understand. The gazes of countless people landed on Qin Wentian. There were some who were worried, while there were others who couldn't wait for Qin Wentian to die earlier. However, at this moment, a terrifying aura gushed forth from Qin Wentian's body. His bloodline started to seethe. His long hair fluttered in the wind, becoming even darker than before. At this moment, the crowd had an illusion that Qin Wentian was undergoing a transformation. Sikong Mingyue, who was standing in front of Qin Wentian, felt the most distinct sensation. Even the storm of slaughter in his body froze as he felt a sense of bewilderment. Was this the power of a bloodline? Qin Wentian had the bloodline power, and he had awakened it. Qin Wentian's figure seemed to have gradually grown taller. The aura emanating from his body was like that of a ferocious beast, or a monarch of heaven and earth. Buzz! Abruptly, Qin Wentian's eyes snapped open. In that instant, it was as though an emperor's aura gushed out from him, as though he was the sovereign of the world, causing Sikong Mingyue to feel an illusion of wanting to submit. Crackling sounds rang out as Qin Wentian's body grew taller and taller. He stood there, resembling an emperor, an ancient god, peering down with disdain at everything under the heavens. Qin Wentian's body was filled with endless power. The hand that was holding the heavenly halberd was so firm. What a terrifying bloodline. It can actually change the body of a person, as if it's reconstructing the body. This bloodline is definitely a high-grade bloodline. Some of the more powerful characters in the spectator stands felt their hearts trembling. Although Wu Xiao, who possessed a bloodline, was extremely rare, they were still aware of the power of bloodlines. Not only that, bloodlines could also be classified into different grades. Qin Wentian's bloodline not only increased his strength, but it also gave off an aura of a monarch descending upon the world. This was something only those with high-grade bloodlines would possess. Your advantage is merely in terms of cultivation base. I find it hard to understand why you guys have such lofty expressions on your faces, as though you guys are the only existences in this world. Qin Wentian calmly continued, sometimes, the advantage of a cultivation base doesn't represent everything. When I defeat you guys with my cultivation base at the 7th level of arterial circulation, how much embarrassment would you guys feel when your pride was trampled on? After speaking, Qin Wentian took a step forward, as though he was truly going to descend upon the world. On the platform, a light breeze gusted by as countless gazes landed on Qin Wentian. At this moment, he was the focus of countless people. There are so many gazes of anticipation on me, how can I disappoint them? Drawing in a deep breath, Qin Wentian's battle intent soared to the extreme. Once, he was a nameless nobody, braving danger to enter the royal capital. At that time, as long as the Yi clan treated him with the slightest bit of respect, there was a very high possibility that he would become a dead man. Even if the Yi clan didn't think highly of him, he still narrowly escaped death in the hands of Orphan and Yi Zhan. At that time, he had no friends, and no one paid attention to him. But now, although he had many enemies in the royal capital, he knew that there were also many who wished him well. Mo Clan, Divine Weapon Pavilion, Emperor Star Academy, Mo Qingcheng, Mustang, Muro, Fatty Fanlo. With so many people's expectations, how could he disappoint them? From the moment he stepped onto the platform of the Junlin banquet, he had already wanted to obtain the first position. Now that he had the confidence to do so, the first position would definitely be his. Within his body, the blood in his body was seething, and the divine energy in his body was boiling. Following the circulation of his stellar meridians, it frenziedly flowed towards his arms. His aura continued to soar, as though there was no end to it. Sikong Mingyue finally moved. Initially, he wanted to see how strong Qin Wentian was. However, his confidence was gradually wavering. Qin Wentian's aura continued to soar, while his own was being suppressed. If this continued, his aura would eventually weaken. If he was weaker, how could he fight? Boom! Qin Wentian also moved. His entire person transformed into a beam of light as he executed the mountain splitter stance. The power of the ancient halberd was terrifying to the extreme, as though it wanted to break apart everything. Die! Sikong Mingyue howled in rage. The ancient slaughter runes condensed into a sword, colliding against the ancient halberd. The resulting shockwave actually forced Sikong Mingyue to retreat a step. Although it was only a single step, to him, it was still a humiliation. Boom! Yet another halberd slashed out. At this moment, Qin Wentian was like an emperor, his aura towering over the heavens. Sikong Mingyue's countenance was extremely unsightly to behold. The boundless energy within his body seethed as he slammed out with his palms. Momentarily, the ancient slaughter runes condensed together, transforming into a gigantic killing intent that swept out. With a thunderous boom, the ancient halberd shattered the killing intent. Sikong Mingyue retreated another 3 steps as his countenance grew increasingly unsightly to behold. Fight! Sikong Mingyue howled in rage. Despite retreating, his aura was still towering over the heavens, and his killing intent grew even stronger. Numerous ancient characters floated in front of his palms, each containing a terrifying sword chi. Die! Sikong Mingyue howled in rage. At the instant his palms slammed out, the boundless ancient slaughter runes transformed into rays of killing light that shot towards Qin Wentian. The might contained within them was so terrifying that it caused people to shudder in fear. However, at the same time, the ancient halberd of Qin Wentian slashed out once again. This time around, it was the fallen star stance. The spectators felt as though they could see numerous constellations converging together, transforming into a vortex. Finally, the vortex violently smashed downwards, causing the entire space to tremble. Terrifying rumbling sounds echoed out as a hurricane swept across the entire platform. The ancient slaughter runes shattered under the impact of the tremors, as though numerous constellations were smashing towards Sikong Mingyue. Sikong Mingyue hastily tried to defend, but his body was so badly shaken that he spat out blood as he retreated with explosive speed. Sikong Mingyue retreated all the way to the edge of the platform, as fresh blood splattered all over the ground. Silence filled the air. How could Qin Wentian's attacks be so powerful? They had all witnessed how tyrannical Sikong Mingyue's attacks were. But at this moment, Qin Wentian's attacks had completely suppressed Sikong Mingyue, causing him to spit out blood. This year's Junlin banquet is definitely a rare opportunity. Many people sighed in their hearts. This was too fascinating. Initially, they thought that Chu Chen had already made a comeback. But who would have thought that before Chu Chen could even stabilize his position within the top 3, he would be blasted down by Qin Wentian. And when Qin Wentian defeated Chu Chen, he wasn't even in his strongest state. The current Qin Wentian, he even wanted to suppress Sikong Mingyue. Those arrogant words of yours are still ringing in my ears. Do you feel ashamed when you think of them now? You are only at the 9th level of arterial circulation, what qualifications do you have to be so arrogant? Qin Wentian calmly spoke. His aura was as terrifying as ever, and his calm voice was like a slap to Sikong Mingyue's face. Since you want to find a sense of existence so badly, I will let everyone know that your existence is meaningless. The ignorant are fearless, treating you like thin air. Since you want to court death, I shall grant you your wish. These words were spoken by Sikong Mingyue not long ago. But what was the result? Qin Wentian brandished his ancient halberd as he continued advancing forwards. Sikong Mingyue's countenance turned extremely unsightly to behold. Qin Wentian didn't directly make a move, but instead walked towards him step by step. Was Qin Wentian trying to force him to admit defeat? That silhouette got closer and closer, and the killing intent radiating from Qin Wentian also grew increasingly stronger. One could be sure that Qin Wentian would definitely dare to kill Sikong Mingyue. Before this, he had already killed Second Sword and Third Knight. Feeling the increasing pressure, an expression of agony appeared on Sikong Mingyue's face as he spoke, "I've lost." These 3 calm words seemed to have sucked away all the energy in Sikong Mingyue's body. These 3 words were undoubtedly a declaration that he, Sikong Mingyue, had admitted defeat. Qin Wentian halted his steps, only to see Sikong Mingyue slowly turning and leaping off the platform. He had been defeated by Qin Wentian. The second ranking of the Junlin banquet was snatched away by Qin Wentian. How handsome! Fatty Fan Lu drew in a deep breath as an intoxicated expression appeared on his face. The second ranking of the Junlin banquet? Many people hadn't even reacted yet. The second ranking was snatched away by Qin Wentian from Sikong Mingyue's hands. Not only that, did Qin Wentian only want the second ranking? Qin Wentian shifted his gaze onto the first platform as he lifted his ancient halberd, pointing it at Luo Qianqiu. Once, Luo Qianqiu had stood on the towering platform, looking down at him, demanding that he hand over the blood ember fruits. Once, in the dark forest, Luo Qianqiu had hunted him down and almost killed him. Once, in the snowstorm, Luo Qianqiu had wanted him to receive 3 strikes from him, unexcelled in the world. Not long ago, Luo Qianqiu had acted the same way, as though the first ranking of the Junlin banquet was already his. Towards him, Qin Wentian, he had always been disdainful. And now, he was finally standing in front of him. He would show Luo Qianqiu what it meant to be arrogant. It's your turn. There were no heroic words, only 3 calm words. Yet, it was as though he was making a declaration. Today, in the Junlin banquet, he, Qin Wentian, was going to fight for the first position. Chapter 142. His hair was as black as ink, and his halberd was stained red with blood. Qin Wentian stood there like an ancient god of war. The youth he used to be was completely ignited at this moment. The battle intent that had been accumulating for a long time exploded out crazily. At this moment, the crowd no longer had confidence in Luo Qianqiu. After personally witnessing Qin Wentian defeating Sikong Mingyue, they could faintly sense that Qin Wentian might really be able to defeat Luo Qianqiu and become the champion of the Junlin banquet. At this moment, it was as if they had forgotten about the bet. In their eyes, there was only the rising youth. They were filled with anticipation, hoping that he would be able to complete the final counterattack. If that was the case, many years later, this would become a legend. Could Qin Wentian defeat Luo Qianqiu? At this moment, facing against Qin Wentian's ancient halberd, Luo Qianqiu took a step forward. His battle intent was similarly boiling. The person he had once trampled on was now pointing at him in such an arrogant manner. In that case, he could only fight. Let's rest for 4 hours. Just as their auras collided, an indifferent voice drifted out. It was none other than the old man standing beside Chu Tianjiao. Qin Wentian and Luo Qianqiu were both prepared for battle. Why was there a need for them to rest? Why not directly proceed to the pinnacle battles of the Junlin banquet? However, no matter how displeased they were, since the other party had spoken, they could only wait for 4 hours. Qin Wentian frowned slightly and looked at the elder. Since they were ready to fight, why did they stop? The two of you, take a break and prepare for battle. The old man continued. Luo Qianqiu and Qin Wentian could only nod their heads. Since the other party wanted them to wait, they could only wait for another 4 hours. I'm sure everyone must be exhausted. Why don't you all take a short break? Chu Tianjiao smiled as he stared at the crowd. Although everyone on the grandstand had their own worries, they were still chatting casually. Luo Qianqiu left the platform, as though someone had called him away. Qin Wentian, can you come over for a chat? At this moment, a voice drifted over. The crowd turned their gazes over, only to see a person standing beside Chu Tianjiao looking in the direction of Qin Wentian. This person was the middle-aged man who rarely spoke. The moment he spoke, the pupils of many people narrowed. He wanted Qin Wentian to go over and have a chat. The people of these great forces knew where this middle-aged man came from. Many people couldn't help but feel apprehensive when he asked Qin Wentian to come over, especially the people of the Yi clan and the O clan. That's right, with Qin Wentian's talent, it was extremely likely that he would be valued. After all, he had defeated Sikong Mingyue. Even though they were enemies with Qin Wentian, they had no choice but to admit Qin Wentian's talent. If they were in Qin Wentian's shoes, they would also be willing to rope in Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian kept his ancient halberd, and the roaring blood in his body also gradually subsided. The shackles of his bloodline had already been unlocked, and after enduring the boundless pain and agony, he had endured it with his strong will. This was the reason why he was late to the Junlin banquet today. And now, he could already control the power of his bloodline. After crossing the platform, Qin Wentian walked to the side of the middle-aged man, only to see that there were quite a few youths staring at him, their eyes gleaming with sharpness. These people must have come from the same place as Luo Qianqiu. There was no need to doubt their strength. Come to the back and drink a few cups of wine. The middle-aged man slowly turned and brought Qin Wentian to the area behind Chu Chunqiu. The banquet had already been prepared, and there were many people surrounding the area. There was no one to disturb them, and the atmosphere was extremely peaceful. After the middle-aged man and Qin Wentian sat down, someone immediately poured wine for them. The middle-aged man raised his cup to Qin Wentian as he smiled. Your talent isn't bad. Are you interested in joining the 9 Mystical Palace? Qin Wentian's countenance stiffened. Indeed, this person was someone from the 9 Mystical Palace. The 9 Mystical Palace was the power behind Chu and 10 other countries. They couldn't afford to offend them. From a certain perspective, if he could join the 9 Mystical Palace, it would definitely have an extraordinary significance to him, Qin Wentian. However, the conversation he had with Mustang previously caused a trace of ill will to appear in his heart. The 9 Mystical Palace seemed to have designs on the Heavenly Star Pavilion of the Emperor Star Academy. If he agreed to join the 9 Mystical Palace, but the 9 Mystical Palace wanted him to stand in opposition to the Emperor's Star Academy, this was something he wasn't willing to do. Senior, what about the final battle of the Junlin banquet? Qin Wentian probed. He wanted to know if Luo Qianqiu wanted to join the Heavenly Star Pavilion because of the 9 Mystical Palace. I want you to lose. The middle-aged man smiled as he toasted Qin Wentian. His voice was extremely calm, as though he was speaking of an insignificant matter. However, his words caused Qin Wentian's eyes to narrow. Looking at the smile on the middle-aged man's face, Qin Wentian felt a chill in his heart. I want you to lose. These 4 simple words seemed to contain an unquestionable will within. This was the will of the 9 Mystical Palace. The 9 Mystical Palace wanted Qin Wentian to lose. Even if they valued Qin Wentian's talent. Don't worry, as long as you join the 9 Mystical Palace, the rewards you will obtain will definitely not be limited to just being the champion of the Junlin banquet. You should have heard of what sort of power the 9 Mystical Palace is. Not only that, I truly admire your talent. The middle-aged man saw that Qin Wentian was stunned for a moment before he continued with a smile. However, because of certain reasons, you have to lose this battle. Qianqiu has to be the champion no matter what. As for the small conflicts between the two of you, I will mediate between you two. Qin Wentian fell into silence, feeling somewhat stifled. Naturally, he didn't want to admit defeat. The moment he stepped onto the Junlin banquet, he had already come here to fight for the position of champion. Even if he lost, he would have no regrets. However, now that his sword was pointed at the top, the 9 Mystical Palace actually told him that he had to lose. He didn't want to lose, and he didn't want to intentionally lose. However, a power like the 9 Mystical Palace made him feel as though there was a huge mountain pressing down on his back. There's still 4 hours left. Think about it seriously. What the 9 Mystical Palace can give you is something that the Emperor's Star Academy cannot compare to. Based on your talent, joining the 9 Mystical Palace is your best choice. The middle-aged man still had a smile on his face. After speaking, he departed, leaving behind Qin Wentian alone. Although the middle-aged man had a smile on his face as he chatted with Qin Wentian understood that behind that smile, nobody knew what kind of thoughts were hidden within. After downing the wine in his cup, Qin Wentian departed the area. Have you thought it through? As he passed by the middle-aged man, he only saw the middle-aged man smiling at him. I will consider it. Qin Wentian didn't directly reply to the middle-aged man. Instead, he returned to the platform. At this moment, many people were speculating. Earlier, when Qin Wentian was called over, what did the middle-aged man from the 9 Mystical Palace say to him? Most probably, they wanted to invite Qin Wentian to join the 9 Mystical Palace. However, did Qin Wentian agree? It was as though they wanted to see something from Qin Wentian's eyes. However, they only saw Qin Wentian directly closing his eyes. Clutching the Yuan meteor stone in his hands, he closed his eyes and began to meditate, as though he had entered into a state of anatta. Nobody knew what he was thinking, and nobody knew what had happened earlier. Other than the middle-aged man and Qin Wentian himself, no one knew what he was thinking. Time slowly flowed by, and everyone was already filled with impatience. According to the latest payout rates from Drunken Wonder, the payout rates for Luo Qianqiu and Qin Wentian to become the champion were already 1-2. This was equivalent to betting on who would win. After the payout rates were released, countless people started to bet on Qin Wentian's victory. The hope they had for Qin Wentian had already surpassed the hope they had for Luo Qianqiu. In the world of cultivation, everyone had the dream of becoming the strongest. Luo Qianqiu was born with a golden spoon in his mouth. From the very beginning, he was already considered to be the strongest contender for the championship of this year's Junlin banquet. Qin Wentian, on the other hand, was a dark horse. With a cultivation base at the 7th level of arterial circulation, he had slaughtered his way all the way to where he was now. Such a reversal caused the hearts of countless people to surge with emotions. They also hoped that they would be able to be like Qin Wentian, walking step by step towards the pinnacle under the astonished gazes of the crowd. One could say that the reason why many people placed their bets on Qin Wentian was no longer simply because of the pursuit of benefits. Rather, it was because of the emotions in their hearts, as well as a type of faith. They hoped to see a different Junlin banquet. They also hoped to witness history being made. Years later, when Qin Wentian's name shook the world, this battle would definitely become a legend. 4 hours was a very short period of time, but to the crowd, it felt like an eternity. After several days and nights, the old man finally announced the start of the Junlin banquet. At this moment, silence filled the entire space. Everyone was speechless as they stared at the two silhouettes facing each other on the platform. The final battle of the Junlin banquet, Luo Qianqiu versus Qin Wentian. Would this battle be recorded in the annals of Chu? From Luo Qianqiu's body, the violent lightning astral souls and astral energy in his body crackled. He stood there, resembling a god of thunder. Qin Wentian brandished his ancient halberd as he ignited the power of his bloodline. Although suppressing the roaring of his bloodline consumed a lot of his energy, it was still sufficient to support him for this battle. The astral energy in his body began to circulate, but at this instant, Qin Wentian's countenance abruptly changed, becoming exceptionally unsightly to behold. Fight! Luo Qianqiu howled in rage, instantly descending upon Qin Wentian. The arms of the lightning seigneur swept out in a frenzy, while Qin Wentian's countenance turned ashen. He brandished the ancient halberd in his hands in defense, yet his aura was far inferior compared to when he fought against Sikong Mingyue. With a thunderous boom, Qin Wentian's body was flung through the air, landing on the platform. Groaning in pain, he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. This, the spectators, who were filled with boundless anticipation, were all dumbfounded. With a single strike, Qin Wentian was injured by Luo Qianqiu. Was the disparity between the two of them really so great? This caused many to feel a sense of disappointment in their hearts. Had they seen wrongly? Why? Qin Wentian's eyes were filled with rage as he stared at the middle-aged man seated beside the azure jadeite dragon seat. In these 4 hours, he had only drunk a small cup of wine. However, at this moment, the astral energy in his arterial pathways wasn't circulating smoothly. I want you to lose. Qin Wentian recalled the resolute voice of the Nine Mystical Palace, as his heart was filled with grief and indignation. Chapter 143. When Qin Wentian glanced at his opponent, the countenance of the middle-aged man from the Nine Mystical Palace was as calm as ever, as though all of this had nothing to do with him. In the Junlin banquet, Luo Qianqiu had to obtain the position of champion no matter what. At this moment, the spectators were all dumbfounded. They were anticipating Qin Wentian's counterattack, defeating the number 1 contender, Luo Qianqiu. Especially after Qin Wentian defeated Sikong Mingyue in such a domineering manner, the anticipation in their hearts soared to the peak. In fact, the number of people placing their bets on Qin Wentian was even higher compared to Luo Qianqiu. Even if Qin Wentian was defeated in this battle, they wouldn't have any complaints. That was what they were anticipating. But never in their wildest dreams would they have imagined that the battle would end in such a manner. Qin Wentian wasn't even able to withstand a single strike from Luo Qianqiu. This made it extremely hard for them to accept. Not only for the spectators, even those from the Emperor's Star Academy, the Divine Weapon Pavilion, and the Mo clan were all dumbfounded. Among the crowd from the Emperor's Star Academy, Ren Qianqing's eyes flickered as he sighed in his heart. He could faintly guess why the people from the Nine Mystical Palace had called Qin Wentian over. They definitely didn't want Qin Wentian to win against Luo Qianqiu. If that's the case, the Nine Mystical Palace would tempt Qin Wentian to join them and give up on this battle. Based on the strength Qin Wentian had displayed earlier, there was only one possibility for him to be suppressed by Luo Qianqiu. That was because he wanted to give up, and intentionally chose not to battle. This caused Ren Qianqing to feel extremely unbearable. Luo Qianqiu's father was his disciple, and he regarded him highly. Yet, his father had the heart of a wolf. Qin Wentian was the second person he regarded highly. If Qin Wentian walked down the same path as Luo Qianqiu's father, how much pain would he feel in his heart? Is that all your strength? Luo Qianqiu walked towards Qin Wentian, his entire body bathed in the might of lightning. The current him was unexcelled in the world. Qin Wentian stood ramrod straight as he stared at his opponent. It was as though his arterial pathways were blocked, and the circulation of astral energy in his body wasn't smooth. In such a state, he had no way to unleash his full strength. How could he even fight? But what made him even more hateful was that given the status of the 9 mystical palace, he couldn't even speak of such a thing. Once he opened his mouth, it was very likely that he would be met with a calamity. Because, that person was the 9 mystical palace, the ruler of 10 countries. Right now, he had yet to break off all relations with the 9 mystical palace, but if he were to say that the 9 mystical palace drugged him, it would be equivalent to sending himself into a hopeless situation. No one could understand Qin Wentian's feelings. Pain, struggle, and despair. Boom! Luo Qianqiu sent out yet another palm strike. The lightning palm imprint seemed as though it wanted to bury him alive. Qin Wentian circulated his energy to resist, but with a resounding boom, his body was sent flying for the second time. His entire body felt numb as he coughed out blood unceasingly, his face pale. How could this be? The relaxed expression on Fan Li's face had long disappeared. Even though he had won many yuan meteor stones, he couldn't feel the slightest bit of happiness when he saw Qin Wentian's current state. He wasn't afraid that Qin Wentian would lose, but he didn't want to see his brother being humiliated like this. Luo Huan was stunned, Mu Rou was stunned, Mo Qingchen was stunned, Mustang was stunned. None of them could accept such a situation. Merely a so-so. Among the crowd, Qiu Mo's mocking voice was exceptionally ear-piercing. Old Gu turned his gaze over, coldly glancing at him. Momentarily, Qiu Mo's countenance stiffened as he shut his mouth. But in his heart, he couldn't accept this. The Emperor's Star Academy actually regarded Qin Wentian so highly that it surpassed him, a Yuanfu realm disciple. No matter what, he, Qiu Mo, was still ranked 4th among the 10 prodigies of the royal capital. Qin Wentian. A voice drifted into Qin Wentian's ears, yet only he could hear it. Gazing at the middle-aged man, the owner of that voice was none other than him. Just admit defeat. I won't let Luo Qianqiu do anything to you. As long as you are willing to give up, Luo Qianqiu will spare you. Not only that, I will compensate you in the future. The middle-aged man's voice once again drifted into Qin Wentian's ears. Like before, only he could hear it. His countenance was incomparably calm, with not even the slightest fluctuation. Using such a method to force him to admit defeat? If he doesn't admit defeat, would Luo Qianqiu kill him on the platform? Qin Wentian's heart was filled with rage. He had every reason to believe that if the 9 mystical palace didn't stand on his side, even if he admitted defeat, Luo Qianqiu would still kill him. Nobody would be able to touch Luo Qianqiu. With the 9 mystical palace standing behind him, and the royal clan supporting him, who would dare to touch Luo Qianqiu? Qin Wentian glanced to the side. He saw the expression of Mustang, Ren Qianqing, and the worry on Mo Qingqing's face. Turning his head back, he also saw the worry and sadness on the faces of Luo Huan, Qin Yao, and Fatty Fan Lu. He also saw the disappointment on the faces of countless others. This was the first time that Qin Wentian felt that there were so many people who cared about him. Among these people, there were elders, relatives, friends, and even ordinary people who had only seen him fight a few times before. A year ago, he had traveled all the way here from the Sky Harmony City alone, facing danger at any moment. But today, with so many people who cared about him, he was truly happy, happy from the bottom of his heart. Because he was happy, he couldn't accept this. He couldn't accept defeat, he couldn't accept the disappointment of so many people who cared about him. He didn't want to see their expressions of disappointment. He didn't want to become a puppet of others, to be controlled by them. The 9 Mystical Palace valued his talent and could negotiate with him nicely. However, the 9 Mystical Palace's actions were a form of disrespect to him, an insult to him. He couldn't accept this. Before the dawn, the night is the darkest. Qin Wentian thought back to the words Uncle Black had once told him. Thinking back to the face of Uncle Black, his heart felt as though it was shedding tears. Luo Qianqiu once again walked in front of Qin Wentian, exuding a violent aura. A terrifying killing intent gushed forth from him. This time around, there will be no more miracles. I want you to die. Luo Qianqiu's voice was resolute and could sever iron. He wanted Qin Wentian to die. This time around, he wouldn't allow Qin Wentian to live any longer. A violent fist of lightning congregated in his palm, as a storm of lightning manifested around Luo Qianqiu. His gaze was fixed on Qin Wentian, as though he was looking at a dead man. From now on, there will be no more Qin Wentian in Chu, Luo Qianqiu calmly stated. I can't accept this. Qin Wentian abruptly lifted his head, releasing his great dream astral soul. His eyes gleamed with a terrifying dreamlike light, and in that instant, Luo Qianqiu's movements halted. Not only Luo Qianqiu, Qin Wentian also halted. The wind ruffled their long hair, yet their bodies seemed to have transformed into statues. His great dream astral soul radiated a radiance that belonged solely to him, causing many to have strange expressions on their faces. That astral soul seemed to cause people to want to sleep. He's not moving. Did he enter the dreamscape? Many people were dumbfounded. It seemed as though the battle had taken a turn for the worse. Luo Qianqiu had indeed entered Qin Wentian's dreamscape. On this desolate land, only the two of them remained standing. At this moment, Qin Wentian exuded a terrifying aura, as though he was the king of the heavens and earth. He coldly stared at Luo Qianqiu, and the aura he exuded was also terrifying to the extreme. This is an illusory realm. Luo Qianqiu furrowed his brows. After which, he closed his eyes, as an intense will erupted forth. He wanted to exit this illusory realm. This was an illusory realm created by Qin Wentian for him. Qin Wentian's strength was all an illusion. Why can't we fight in an illusory realm? Qin Wentian stated. After which, he stepped out, his powerful aura completely erupted forth. An ancient halberd appeared in his hands, as he stabbed out with it. The aura of the heavens and earth converged frenziedly, resembling a stream of light. Luo Qianqiu clearly knew that this was an illusion, but it felt too real. He could only retaliate, and the stream of light pierced through his arm, causing blood to drip from it. Luo Qianqiu retreated, his countenance extremely ugly to behold. Despicable. You can only create an illusion in your illusory realm to defeat me? Luo Qianqiu's countenance was as black as coal. Despicable. Before the final battle, your people from the 9 Mystical Palace actually drugged my wine, causing my arterial pathways to be obstructed. This is the reason why I was suppressed by you. Do you really think that your strength is that strong? Ridiculous. Qin Wentian sarcastically continued, not only that, isn't the illusory realm a part of my strength? How can I be compared to your people from the 9 Mystical Palace? In order to achieve your goals, you would resort to any means necessary. Luo Qianqiu furrowed his brows, you are lying. Humph, Qin Wentian couldn't be bothered to explain to Luo Qianqiu. His terrifying aura erupted forth, this was his dream. How strong was his will? Luo Qianqiu also retreated. Very quickly, within the dreamscape, Luo Qianqiu's entire body was covered in blood, his countenance pale. Qin Wentian walked towards him step by step, staring down at him. In the outside world, the spectators were all stunned as they saw the two of them standing there motionlessly. Not only that, Luo Qianqiu retreated step by step, nobody knew what he was experiencing. Seems like this is a dreamscape. A sharp glint of light flashed in Ren Qianqing's eyes. Qin Wentian didn't admit defeat, he didn't intentionally lose. Definitely not, he didn't judge wrongly. In that case, did the Nine Mystical Palace do something? His gaze sharpened as he stared at the middle-aged man from the Nine Mystical Palace. Die! A thunderous roar shook the heavens and earth as a terrifying aura erupted forth from Luo Qianqiu. His eyes regained their luster as he stared at Qin Wentian, howling in rage. So what if you were strong in the dreamscape? Today, you will die all the same. Boundless lightning bolts transformed into dragons that danced in the air. Luo Qianqiu's killing intent surged forth. Too late. Qin Wentian's bloodline was also roaring. His long hair was as black as ink, and his physique was akin to that of a king, overlooking the world. Terrifying rumbling sounds echoed out from within Qin Wentian's body. It was as though his blood vessels were churning, his arterial pathways were boiling, and his astral energy was howling in rage. Break for me. Qin Wentian inclined his head and howled to the heavens. His ink-black hair fluttered in the wind as a terrifying howl of rage erupted from his body. The spectators felt as though they could hear the roar of the sea. Qin Wentian's body was currently undergoing a transformation. His 7 arterial pathways began to wriggle madly, expanding and shattering as a brand new 8 arterial pathways were born. The astral energy in his body began to circulate smoothly once again, and his aura continued to grow stronger. That was the aura of a cultivator at the 8th level of arterial circulation. Qin Wentian couldn't accept this. Those dirty plots couldn't sway his will, they wouldn't waver his determination. His obsession had never been so intense before. Today, he wanted to be number one. Chapter 144. On the platform, Qin Wentian's long black hair fluttered in the wind, as his robes fluttered in the wind. His aura transformed into a raging tempest, sweeping across the platform. At this moment, Qin Wentian's silhouette was fiendishly handsome and terrifying. He stood there, as though he was the only person in the world. Luo Qianqiu was originally so dazzling, but at this moment, his radiance was completely suppressed. He broke through. The crowd felt as though they were in a dream. At such a crucial moment, Qin Wentian had actually broken through to the 8th level of arterial circulation. Qin Wentian hadn't broken through long ago, but Wu Xiu's breakthrough required a long process. It wasn't something that could be accomplished in a day or two. However, before dawn today, Qin Wentian had awakened his bloodline limit. The terrifying power of his bloodline limit almost swallowed him whole. Relying on his willpower and determination, he stabilized himself for a long time before he was able to return to normal. After that, he spent a lot of time trying to stabilize his cultivation base, causing him to almost miss the June Lin banquet. But this time around, the awakening of his bloodline limit had also stimulated his acupoints, broadening his arterial pathways. He was already faintly on the verge of breaking through. At this moment, those from the Emperor's Star Academy were completely at ease. This was especially so for Ren Qianqing. A gentle smile could be seen on his face as he stared at the silhouette of the youth on the platform. He was very happy, truly very happy. He hadn't misjudged Qin Wentian. It was definitely the Nine Mystical Palace who had done something to Qin Wentian. He felt ashamed of his earlier thoughts. He shouldn't have doubted Qin Wentian. The Emperor's Star Academy had long investigated Qin Wentian. How could a youth like Qin Wentian submit to the Nine Mystical Palace for the sake of benefits? As long as you treat the Academy with loyalty, the Academy will definitely grant you a clear sky. Ren Qianqing silently spoke in his heart. His heart, which hadn't wavered for a long time, actually felt traces of warmth flowing through it. Qin Yao, Luo Huan, Mu Rou, Fan Lu, Immortal Drunken Wine, and the rest all had smiles on their faces. Since Qin Wentian had broken through, this meant that everything had already been decided. Luo Qianqiu could no longer block Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian, who was only at the 7th level of arterial circulation, was already extremely tyrannical. Although they didn't know why Qin Wentian was defeated by Luo Qianqiu, there must be a special reason behind it. However, no one dared to think about the reason behind it. Luo Qianqiu should no longer be a match for Qin Wentian now that he had broken through. At this moment, Luo Qianqiu was also staring at Qin Wentian. Sensing the change in Qin Wentian's aura, Luo Qianqiu's gaze stiffened. It was as though this was the first time he realized that the person in front of him could defeat him. Qin Wentian similarly stared at Luo Qianqiu. Taking a step forward, a terrifying wave of qi gushed forth from him. Wielding the ancient halberd in his hands, his gaze was like lightning as he stared at Luo Qianqiu. Today, he wanted to be number one. Whether my words are true or false, you should know very well in your heart, Qin Wentian calmly replied. He didn't reveal the fact that the 9 mystical palace had done something to him. To him, it was meaningless. So what if everyone knew that the 9 mystical palace was despicable? The 9 mystical palace's position was because of his strength. He had no way to shake this gigantic existence. Even if everyone knew that he was despicable, the 9 mystical palace was still the 9 mystical palace. This was determined by strength. Qin Wentian's ancient halberd finally slashed out. The first stance of the great dream halberd art, Mountain Splitter. This halberd strike was like a dream, as fast as lightning, as heavy as a mountain, capable of splitting apart the heavens and earth. Luo Qianqiu roared in rage as the shadow of the lightning seigneur appeared behind him. A terrifying arm of lightning violently blasted out, colliding with the ancient halberd. Bang! The arm of lightning exploded into pieces as Luo Qianqiu retreated explosively. However, the sound of dripping blood rang out as the spectators saw fresh blood dripping from Luo Qianqiu's chest. Upon seeing this scene, the spectators drew in a deep breath. It seemed like the champion of this year's Junlin banquet would be seized by Qin Wentian. To be able to witness such a miracle, the spectators all felt that they were extremely fortunate. Luo Qianqiu, in truth, you really aren't that great. Qin Wentian calmly spoke, his words causing Luo Qianqiu's countenance to turn ashen. Undoubtedly, Qin Wentian was the one with the most qualifications to say such a sentence. In less than a year's time, Luo Qianqiu had gone from being unexcelled in the world in front of Qin Wentian to being defeated by Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian naturally had the qualifications to say, Luo Qianqiu, you really aren't that great. However, the spectators understood that it wasn't that Luo Qianqiu wasn't outstanding enough. It was just that Qin Wentian was more monstrous. Geniuses also depended on the environment they were born in. There were many people in the royal capital who were hailed as geniuses, but if they were placed in the 9 mystical palace, would they still have the title of genius? Luo Qianqiu was originally so dazzling, but because of the existence of Qin Wentian, at this moment, he seemed to have lost all of his luster. Boom! Qin Wentian stepped out once again, executing the Garuda movement technique. His silhouette was as fast as lightning, instantly appearing in front of Luo Qianqiu. The second stance of the great dream halberd art, Fallen Star. The instant this strike was unleashed, Luo Qianqiu felt an overwhelming sense of terror. The pressure emanating from this strike caused him to feel as though he was about to collapse. He might not be able to withstand this strike. One after another, constellations after constellations smashed towards Luo Qianqiu. Luo Qianqiu roared in rage, using all of his strength to strike out with both his palms. Boom! A terrifying aura engulfed the entire platform. Luo Qianqiu coughed out a mouthful of blood, his countenance as pale as a sheet of paper. Still not going to concede? The spectators couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Luo Qianqiu was a prideful person. He wouldn't allow himself to shout out the words concede to Qin Wentian. Because, he was Luo Qianqiu. He was Luo Qianqiu, but the person standing in front of him was none other than Qin Wentian. Die! Qin Wentian roared as divine energy akin to a mountain frenziedly erupted forth. The ancient halberd vibrated violently, causing Luo Qianqiu's body to unceasingly retreat as fresh blood flowed unceasingly from his mouth. Chu Tianjiao's countenance was indifferent. He only quietly watched on as everything unfolded. He knew that it wasn't up to him to handle this matter. Beside Chu Tianjiao, the eyes of the expert from the 9 mystical palace finally flickered. Ultimately, they had made a miscalculation. To think that a variable like Qin Wentian would appear. Not only that, he had prepared a cup of wine for Qin Wentian. That cup of wine was able to obstruct Qin Wentian's arterial pathways. However, an accident had occurred, and Qin Wentian had broken through. His arterial pathways had expanded once again, and a new arterial pathway had been formed, thereby neutralizing the effects of the wine. As long as Luo Qianqiu obtained first place in the Junlin banquet, no matter what, he would definitely be able to ascend to the 7th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion. But now, Luo Qianqiu had been defeated. According to the agreement made back then, if they couldn't obtain first place in the Junlin banquet, those from the 9 mystical palace wouldn't be able to ascend beyond the 7th level of the Heavenly Star Pavilion. The middle-aged man cast a glance at the experts beside him, but he didn't say anything. "Stay your hand," someone shouted. After that, he stepped onto the battle platform. Like a gust of wind, he appeared on the platform in the blink of an eye. "The battle hasn't ended yet." Qin Wentian cast a glance at him. Luo Qianqiu hadn't admitted defeat, so the Junlin banquet hadn't ended yet. "I told you to stay your hand." The young man who stepped onto the platform was clad in sky-blue robes. He looked to be around 20 years of age, and the aura he exuded indicated that he was at the Yuanfu realm. He took a step forward, and instantly, a mountain-like pressure bore down on Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian shifted his gaze over, staring at Luo Qianqiu as he slowly stated, "The debt of humiliation you gave me in the past, I shall return it to you today." As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian's 8 arterial pathways began to revolve violently as boundless energy converged on the tip of his halberd, explosively blasting outwards. Although Luo Qianqiu did his best to block, his body was still flung through the air as he spat out mouthfuls of fresh blood. The first time Luo Qianqiu met Qin Wentian, he was standing on the platform, looking down at Qin Wentian with an unexcelled arrogance, asking Qin Wentian for the blood ember fruits. Qin Wentian refused, and so Luo Qianqiu made his move. Today, on the same platform, Qin Wentian blasted Luo Qianqiu off the platform. He won. Countless spectators felt their hearts trembling as they witnessed this scene. Qin Wentian ultimately defeated Luo Qianqiu, obtaining the position of the top ranker of the Junlin banquet. At this moment, the silhouette of the youth standing on the platform was so dazzling. Number 1 in the Junlin banquet. Mustang drew in a deep breath. He had thought that he would have to wait a year before Qin Wentian would be able to display his brilliance. However, Luo Qianqiu couldn't wait for another year. Luckily, Qin Wentian didn't wait either. This year, he obtained the position of the top ranker of the Junlin banquet. He had never felt so proud before. That silhouette standing on the platform was discovered by him. Number 1. Mo Qingqing's dainty fists were tightly clenched, as though she was also proud of Qin Wentian. "I knew you would be able to do it." Mu Ro's beautiful eyes shone with a smile. Qin Yao was so moved that she was shedding tears. A year ago, the youth who couldn't cultivate had entered the royal capital alone. And today, a year later, he had obtained the position of the top ranker of the Junlin banquet, his name shaking the world. "Good fellow." Luo Huan giggled, while Mountain, who was beside her, also had a silly smile on his face. "How unexpected." Fatty Fan Lu narrowed his eyes as he laughed. He was extremely happy and proud. The silhouette standing on the platform was none other than his brother. "You've struck it rich." Immortal Drunken Wine smiled as he spoke to the young man beside him. That young man was also extremely astonished. Who would have thought that Qin Wentian would actually be the top ranker? Truly, how unexpected. Naturally, there were those who wished Qin Wentian well, but there were also those who were extremely unhappy. Janice and Qiu Mo had heavy expressions on their faces. Those from the Yi clan and O clan had unsightly expressions on their faces. Murin and Gretchen's countenances stiffened. Lu Yan had an indescribable feeling in her heart. Bai Qingsong had a heavy expression on his face. He was thinking about many things. Autumn Snow knew that from now on, she and Qin Wentian were no longer people from the same world. As for Sikong Mingyue, Orkan, and the others, no one knew how they were feeling at this moment. 3 days later, the rankings of the June Lin banquet were finally determined. Qin Wentian, number 1. It was as though the second and third place no longer mattered. What the crowd paid attention to was the existence that stood at the peak. The dust had finally settled on the June Lin banquet. However, was it truly over? At the very least, there were still people who were extremely unwilling. Qin Wentian didn't follow their orders. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.